unanimously thinks what the Titans have done to themselves is redonkulous. Whether it is the actual move they made, whether it is, the timing about which they did it. And good old Mike Sando, who's got his unidentified league sources. Mike Sando at The Athletic, he used to be at ESPN for forever. He'd put out these great pieces where everybody who talks to Mike Sando is an unnamed blank, like an unnamed scout, league executive, coach. He does those quarterback tiers every year, and he provides anonymity because then it makes those people feel confident that they can say what they want to say. And remember that Mike Sando was the one that gave us that breakdown where that AFC executive 2 years ago it is, said that the Titans were crazy for drafting Caleb Farley because, hey, we looked at those medicals and they were terrible. And we brought that up and we discussed it, and people got mad at us. Oh, man, were they mad. Because they were like, don't talk about Caleb Farley's going to be fine. He's going to be a great player. Go Titans, go team, go. You know what I mean? So, anywho, Mike Sando's got a new piece out at The Athletic. And we got Sando's takes on the Titans. We got a former GM's take on the Titans. We've got a former head coach on the Titans. We've got a longtime executive on the Titans. We have a current executive on the Titans. And we have a former Titans employee on the Titans. So, do we want to get to what Sando said, or do we want to start on what all the former or current or unnamed league people are saying about the situation the Titans find themselves in?
Sando.
Okay, so the headline, Titans could become Texans if they're not careful. Let me say this. How many times have I told you I'm scared of going back to the Ken Whisenhunt and Mike Munchak era?
A lot.
The idea of just...
You are afraid of that.
Just zero. I mean, the season's over in October. The team stinks. Jake Locker's your quarterback. It's 90% visiting fans in the stadium. I don't want that anymore. Mike Sando writes at The Athletic, quote, the Titans' 3-game losing streak, since they wrote an article about how great of a coach Vrabel is, might normally be seen as a bump in the road for a coach and a franchise that reliably has exceeded expectations. But with the surprise firing of general manager John Robinson last week, Titans ownership would be wise to consider what can be learned from one of the worst franchises in the league. The Houston Texans produced 5 winning records in 6 full seasons under Vrabel's friend and former boss Bill O'Brien, only to implode after the coach amassed all of the power, leaving 2 GMs in his wake. So that's what Sando writes. Former general manager says, quote, Vrabel is following the Bill O'Brien playbook to a T, a former GM said on the condition of anonymity in order to speak freely on the subject. I don't see it that way, another exec said. People who think that are missing the whole major point in this whole thing. Sando continues, Vrabel was indeed convincing in explaining he was out of the loop on this franchise-altering decision. Whatever the case, the Titans might look back on this period as the moment when a recently successful franchise became a more volatile one. Robinson might be departing at the right time. So you see how one executive says, I think it's a total power play for Vrabel. Mm-hmm. And another executive's like, I don't think it was a power play for Vrabel. People in the league, these are league people that don't know, that are like, I think Vrabel pulled it off. One person didn't. And then Sando writes, quote, there is almost no scenario by which this turn of events reflects well on the Titans. If Vrabel won some sort of power play with Robinson the way that O'Brien outlasted former Texans GM Rick Smith and Brian Gaine, that would be bad for Tennessee. Under that scenario, the Titans would be more valuable to the whims of a single individual who, despite his success as a head coach, has less experience in the league in operational matters. They might be more vulnerable to that anyway, depending on who Adam Strunk hires in Robinson's place. Former head coach says, quote, be careful what you wish for as an owner. This is a former GM. Mm-hmm. Be careful what you wish for as an owner. Don't go giving your head coach carte blanche, especially when they are a strong-minded guy. Let me say this. I stand with that claim. I like Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel's the best coach in the NFL. I absolutely do not want Mike Vrabel getting total control of the Tennessee Titans. So that's step number one. A longtime executive in the NFL said, quote, I examine what Vrabel says carefully, and most of it is the truth. There is some obvious coach speak he's got to say, but also he delves into some other parts where it gets personal and you know it's true. A current executive with another team said, quote, they are probably going to hire some first-time guy the coach approves of because that is just the way these things go. When the owner gives these soft answers, it's usually because someone has convinced them. It hardly ever works when someone is the power coach. You can easily make the case Vrabel hasn't coached long enough to learn the intricacies of personnel, player acquisition, trade, and free agent markets, not to mention the salary cap and all the other things GMs do that go way beyond the draft. Everyone will say he's going to get help, but, and again, this is a league executive speaking on the condition of anonymity, this is classic, only the people I trust. A current coach, so this is a current coach in the NFL. Quote, people are saying the major players in the whole narrative are John Robinson and Mike Vrabel. A coach from another team said, quote, I don't see it that way. The major player is the majority owner who no one knows anything about. She dropped the hammer on a guy who, by all accounts, is doing no better or worse than any of the other guys who have been in the league as long as he has. What is her angle? What is she not happy with? Where does she see this going? If you take it from the perspective of Vrabel is orchestrating it, then that is the answer. But if you take it from the perspective of the owner is not happy and is trying to do something bigger, it's different. Theoretically, even Vrabel could be on the outs if this person is unhappy, which is kind of true, right? I mean, like, you know.
Those are all fair questions to ask. What are you unhappy with? What's the end goal here?
Former Titans executive in this article. Basically, Sando talked to two former Titan employees who said that they remind that this action that Amy took last week reminds them of Bud, which I've only been talking about for an entire week now, that this was a Bud Adams at his worst kind of move. And a former Titans employee said, quote, and I don't know, this could be somebody who serves the popcorn, this could be Jeff Fisher. I have no idea who it is. And they want it that way. Quote, she did that interview from her desk where she reminded me a lot of Bud when she said, I knew my mind was made up, so why wait? One of the former employees said. I just don't see how it gives you an advantage doing this now. If you are going to make the playoffs, if you are not making the playoffs, then doing it now gives you an advantage. It shows you are taking action, and now you're going to find the next person to lead the franchise. Of course, as we know, the Titans are going to make the playoffs. So long story short, these are what people who honestly, in my opinion, really don't give a rat's ass about the Titans. I mean, this other coach, and I don't know who the, anonymous coach is, but he doesn't care about the Titans. I mean, this executive, longtime, former GM, former Titan, they don't care. But it's somebody asking him saying, hey, this is apparently what went down. What do you make of it? And every single person is bad, 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 bad. Like, the comparison to Bud Adams kind of stands out to me. Because Bud Adams, and I am forever grateful to Bud Adams for moving the Titans to Nashville. I think Bud Adams should be in the Hall of Fame. He started the AFL. He was part of the process in which the AFL merged with the NFL. And so I think, Bud Adams deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But the story surrounding Bud Adams is a lot of the things he did was bad. And nobody wants to say that because you don't want to speak ill will of the dead or anything like that. But, Bud Adams screwed up a lot of stuff. For the most part, a lot of the ineptitudes were because of bad decisions, especially impulsive ones that Bud Adams made, like firing Bum Phillips or firing Floyd Reese or whatever. And so I say all of this to say, this Sando thing confirms how I believe, which is that no matter which way of the pie this ends up being sliced, whether it was Vrabel who led a power play, and he has done a fantastic job of making us think that he had nothing to do with it, whether it was Amy at the Philadelphia game, even though she denies this, getting flipped off by the Philadelphia fans and saying, I've had enough of watching AJ dominate us, and so I'm firing John Robinson. Whether it is she was just mad long-term over the drafts and just decided why not and impulsively fired the guy, and because of that, now the team is left picking up the pieces, and we saw how that looked on Sunday. Just like these executives and everybody in the Mike Sando article lay it out, it's bad, 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 bad. They all said it's bad. Former coach, bad. Executive, bad. Titans employee, bad. Current league executive, bad. Longtime executive, bad. There isn't a single one thing in here that's like, I can see where she was coming from on this. And this is what scares me, the headline that the Titans could be becoming the Texans. Because I remember 3 years ago when the Houston Texans, who are the worst team in the league, and have been unwatchable for the last 2 years and this year included, so that's 3. But I remember when they were up 24-0 on the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC divisional round in 2019. I remember that, and it was actually 2020, the calendar year that we were in. It was the 19 season. And the article, Titans could become the Texans if they're not careful. That scares me. The reality is, the more that I've listened to other people, the people that aren't just like, yeah, screw the Caleb Farley pick and the Julio Jones trade, the ones that we called into this radio show and said, you're wrong, Jared, Julio's going to take us to the next level. Those people are just as impulsive as it looks like this decision might have been. The reality for the football team is everybody in the league and people that have been in the league are looking at the Titans thinking, what the hell are you guys doing? And now, because the dust has settled, and I feel like because the dust has settled, now it's not so much a, can you believe it? It's a, yeah, this isn't going to work out for the Titans. And that's how I'm starting to feel. That's how I've been feeling. I think Sunday was an indication of where this could be headed. And I've told you guys, I don't want to go back to the Ken Whisenhunt era. I don't want to go back to the Mike Munchak era. I don't want to go back to the Vince Young throwing his pads in the stands. You know, John McClain, in the Football Life documentary on the 1993 Oilers, said that if the Oilers, and Bud Adams made a threat to everybody that if they didn't win the Super Bowl in 93, he was going to blow the team up. And that's exactly what happened. They moved on from Warren Moon and went to Cody Carlson. But at the end of that documentary, John McClain said that if they had beaten Joe Montana and the Kansas City Chiefs in that one playoff game at the Astrodome, then the city of Houston would have built Bud Adams his new stadium. And it was obvious that it was personal because as soon as Bud Adams left town, they paid even more money to get the Texans a stadium. And so I look at this and I'm like, man, this feels like where we're headed. And everybody is saying it. And there's just too many of you out there that have called into this show and have texted into this show that don't want to admit it. But right here, again, former GM, former executive, current longtime executive, current coach saying, hey, if you take it from the perspective that Vrabel is orchestrating this, then he's the answer. But if it's not, even Vrabel could be on the hot seat. And who's to say Vrabel's not on the hot seat, given what we didn't see coming last week? So that's how we're starting. 615-737-1025. The Mike Sando article is out right now. And again, former executive, former GM, longtime executive, current executive, former Titans employees. And there's not one positive thing that's been said about this. Holy mackerel. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. And then here's the other thing. People around the league really hinted at a power struggle between Robinson and Vrabel. And then Vrabel came out and he said, no power play. Amy commented on it. Are we buying it? We'll get into that. And your phones, 615-737-1025. Live from Bridgestone Arena, Stillman & Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
He looks like 1,000 quarterbacks I've seen in a college game.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
The coaching staff kept him and got rid of the other guys.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
If he's so great in the locker room, then give him a coaching gig.
Chad Withrow is presented by Two Rivers Ford. Custom order your new Ford from Two Rivers Ford on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Calling a criminal defense lawyer or a divorce lawyer, you may think it's the worst day of your life. It doesn't have to be. If you have quality, competent representation who can guide you through a complex system, we can do that for you. Despite if you've been arrested for a DUI or a robbery charge, whether or not you're going through a divorce or a post-divorce, or demanding your fundamental constitutional right to parent your children. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Response to Genesis Diamond's remarkable free financing offer has been so incredible that we're extending it through Christmas Eve. Last minute shoppers, we've got you covered with 5 years zero interest financing on any purchase with $0 down. So you can splurge on that handcrafted diamond ring and spread it over 60 whole months. Studs, bracelets, necklaces, bands, every color and every shape, starting at only $35 a month with $0 down. You can use this amazing offer on anything. Designer engagement rings, classics like diamond pendants and bracelets. All our hand-selected GIA certified diamonds are included, and so are our luxury pre-owned Rolexes. At Genesis, we've got our best collection ever, with case after case of stunning gifts that are romantic and timeless. And with Genesis guaranteed best value price and 5 years zero interest, zero down financing offer, you can make this the best Christmas ever and still stay in budget. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Unapproved credit.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000. That's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just sign up with the promo code JGM. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props, and you can combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. With live betting, you'll be able to get in the game whenever you want. For me, I think it's pretty simple. Titans stink right now, going on the road to the Chargers. I'll take the Chargers, a place they never win. So sign up today with the promo code JGM for your no-sweat bet. That's promo code JGM, and make every moment more this season with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager. Only refund issue is not withdrawable free bets. That expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, their physicians are specialty trained orthopedists that treat injuries and disorders of the upper extremities. Not all painful conditions require surgery. Therefore, their physicians look for non-surgical solutions first. Depending on your condition, you can be treated with a brace, splint, anti-inflammatory medications, rehabilitation, or if necessary, surgery. To experience world-class orthopedic care, visit tn.houston.com, where experience matters.
Never miss a moment of the show. What is this? Check it out. Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
I saw on social media that, Mike gave Amy an ultimatum. That is just so false. That it never happened. People that say that don't know Mike Vrabel. That would not be something he would say or do. And he actually had a great relationship with John. So I want to put that to rest right now.
That was Amy Adams Strunk talking to the AP. And right there, that was I promise this was not a power struggle between Vrabel and Robinson. And yet, Mike Sando in The Athletic talks to a former general manager. He talks to another former general manager. He talks to a former coach. He talks to a current coach. He talks to a former Titans employee. He talks to an executive. And there's kind of a 50-50 feeling as to whether or not this was a power play and Vrabel was involved. So, let me ask this question. Do you think Vrabel was involved in this? Do you think this was a power play, and that even though we're told up and down they swear that that's not what it was? You heard Amy Adams Strunk say, you don't know Mike Vrabel. If you think Mike Vrabel would do that, I mean, I hate to say it, I think I know Mike Vrabel. I didn't rule it out when it first happened, so I hate to say that. Do we think that it's almost like, here's my bigger question, honestly, more so than just Vrabel. Keep Vrabel in this, but do we think somebody's lying somewhere along the way? Like that it's not about what happened in the Eagles game, that it's not about a power struggle between Vrabel and Robinson, that it is as simple as Amy Adams Strunk got fed up with the drafting and the trading and the money and everything else and just decided to fire the general manager at the least opportune time?
I do think that could absolutely be in play, but that's and this is the difficult thing, because I don't feel confident in saying this is what I think happened, because of all of the theories and scenarios and potential things that could have gone down behind the scenes. I think all of them are on the table and all of them could make sense. because I'm trying to rationalize a decision made by Amy Adams Strunk that I just don't think is very rational. So I do think that there could have been foul play involved where Mike Vrabel just got to the point where he said, I can't win games with the players that you have given me.
Well, if it's the second part, if it's just the irrational decision.
And I do think that
if it is that, then the Titans are in deep trouble.
And that's what scares me is I'm trying to find some reason, a la potentially Mike Vrabel getting involved and giving an ultimatum, or potentially saying I cannot win with John Robinson, because I'm giving Amy Adams Strunk more of the benefit of the doubt, because I don't believe that she would make such a rash and impulsive decision in the middle of the season if there were no outside factors.
I mean, it's one of three things. 4 if you count the Green Bay plane, which I'm going to be honest, Joe Retro take shamed me on the Green Bay plane thing. And the more, like, this Green Bay plane thing does not, people who have coached in football or have been general managers in football or who have infinitely more experience than Joe are not ruling out the Green Bay plane.
I'm not ruling out the Green Bay plane.
So when Joe take shames us about the Green Bay plane, just remember that, I mean, even Lombardi. Ian, can we get that Lombardi where he was on Mad Dog on Friday? And this is Mike Lombardi, who worked with Belichick in Cleveland, and he was the general manager with the Raiders, and he went back to the Patriots, and he worked for Belichick there. I mean, he's a longtime football guy. Now, Floyd, was not a Lombardi fan. But this is what Lombardi said on Mad Dog on Friday about this.
I think for Tennessee, look, they're not a talented team. They fired their general manager this week. If you go through the
why'd
draft,
they do that? Why'd they do that?
I would think, to me, this is more about the plane ride home from Green Bay after they won that game. There's a rule that you're not allowed to have alcoholic beverages on the plane, okay? And what happened, I think, ultimately, Todd Dowling got a DUI on his way home. That's fact. So something happened on that airplane. And the guy who's in charge of controlling those things, who's put in charge by the ownership group, is the general manager. So
why did you wait 2 weeks and not fire right on the spot, if that's the case?
Well, I think they did investigation. I think the league's been investigating it too. I think the league went into it. Now, we'll hear something. It's the same thing like when we had this conversation about Dan Snyder, and I said that Goodell's working behind the scenes to get this sold because we know it's going to be bad. We find out yesterday how bad it is. And so we know he's going to sell the team now. So there's things that happen behind the scenes that don't always necessarily come right out. If he was going to get fired for bad drafts, which he's had a lot of bad drafts, he would have been fired. He would have been fired in the offseason, but they gave him a contract extension in the offseason. So something triggered the firing.
So, I mean, like, that's what so Joe can sit there and be like, you guys don't know anything, but clearly football people are talking about the Green Bay plane. So it's either power struggle, Green Bay plane, the owner got mad about Philadelphia, or the owner just decided right then and there that was that. The only scenario, and I'm not rooting for this, the only scenario with which I don't think the Titans are poorly run is the Green Bay plane. The misconduct element of, hey, he did it, or he did something he wasn't supposed to do, or he lied about something, or an investigation turned up something. If that's the case, fine, then you got to go. But if it's just as simple as the owner got mad during the Philadelphia game because the Philly fans were turning around and flipping her the bird during the game, well, I don't want that person in charge of making major decisions for the franchise going forward. And there's no way to veto that person out of office. I mean, she's in there. And that's the scary part about all this is whatever it may have been, the end result is 99% of the time bad for what's next for the football team. And I think I'm kind of frustrated because I feel like a lot of these people that have called in or texted in are like, Jared, she was mad about Isaiah Wilson.
Well, he got extended after Isaiah Wilson.
She was mad about Julio Jones. She was mad about Caleb Farley.
Got extended after Caleb Farley.
Farley's a little different, though. I think that when Farley, this was kind of the prove-it year for Farley. The Farley became officially a bust.
He got picked before he got extended, but still.
But became a bust after he got extended. So I'm going to say
but
that
it's not like Caleb Farley, to me, it didn't feel like Caleb Farley was on the road for, success.
Oh, I didn't think that, but they did. That was But I remember the pre-draft press conference where Vrabel was like, "Oh yeah, he won the award for best answers at the first OTA event." And they started him at corner at the beginning of training camp, so they believed. So Farley is in the this year category. Farley and the A.J. Brown trade are in this year's category, and then everything else is before he got extended. And if that's the case, that's a poorly run team. Like, that's what people don't get. I don't care about the Isaiah Wilson pick. Robinson screwed up on that. And I said at the time to Robinson and on the air, how? Like, how did that happen? How did you interview this guy, go through the draft process, and not realize that he was a total Looney Tune? Because how does that happen? And so it's not like we're ignoring that. But at the same time, just like you may be a poorly run drafter, if you can't pick people's personalities out with all the interviewing and questions you do, if your owner is so impulsive that she's going to nuke the season because Philadelphia fans are turning around and flipping her the bird, like, you're screwed. Like, you're screwed because there will be something that comes up in the future, and then she'll get involved in it, and she'll screw it up. And that's what scares me here. Like, I want competence. I thought she was competence. And in the Mike Sando article, it brings up all the other points about, former Titans employees saying, this is like Bud Adams. I don't like hearing that. I mean, I love Bud Adams, but I don't want the team to be run like Bud Adams is in charge of the team. And so it's hard. It's hard to take this as a fan. I don't know how these people do it that are in the media that aren't fans. Like, I understand how they operate their jobs and cover teams and things like that. But I have a hard time how you handle something like this if you're a fan of the team and you think about all the poorly run franchises in the NFL and when their owners get involved and how often the owner messes things up. And the fact that 2 weeks ago we all thought that this team had good, stable ownership, and now we think they have either reactive ownership or a power-greedy head coach or all of those things, that unless it was misconduct for the Green Bay plane, there is no explanation that makes sense. And the NFL people in the Sando article, the former executives, the former general managers, they're telling us, like, hey, this is probably going to end up pretty poorly for the Titans.
That's why I don't want to count out the plane, because I think the plane scenario brings me more comfort moving forward. That there at least would be, the move was made because they had to make that move, that they were forced to by the league, that it was like, you know what, we used a lot of bad judgment a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to move forward. However,
that's not what people are saying.
I worry that that's not the case.
Joe Rexro can call you stupid for having that take.
That's fine. Joe can call me stupid.
But it is disappointing as a fan to see that, people are looking at it. A former Titans employee is saying, boy, that reminded me of Bud Adams, or a current coach. The line from the current coach, I think, is the biggest thing, which is, if it's not Vrabel, if the major player is the majority owner, she dropped the hammer on a guy who, by all accounts, is doing no better or worse than any of the other guys who have been in the league as long as he has. What is her angle? What is she not happy with? Where does she see it going? If the owner is not happy and is trying to do something bigger, it's different. Theoretically, even Vrabel could be on the outs if this person is unhappy. Boy. And I'll say this about Vrabel. If you win a power struggle, generally speaking, you're probably going to be pretty happy about it. Vrabel has not seemed overly excited the last week since all this went down. Now, maybe he's a great actor, but I don't know what to make of it other than the fact that it feels like the reality is this is bad. 615-737-1025. Speaking of fans and firings, and Mike Vrabel decided he's going to do exactly what you all don't want him to do. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, and your phones, of course. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love my friends at Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. We're at Bridgestone Arena. They got that Happy Hiller logo right there on the ice. My friends at Hiller are giving away cash for the holidays, and they're celebrating from now until the end of the year with special deals. Hiller wants to make sure every child experiences the joy of Christmas this year, so they're donating $50 in toys for Toys for Tots with every tankless water heater purchase, and giving away a $250 Visa gift card with each unit. Get a $500 Visa gift card when you buy select select new HVAC systems, or get a $500 Visa gift card with the purchase of any new whole home generator. They have more details online at happyhiller.com. As always, Happy will be here. The service is free, and these deals are only available until the end of the year, so schedule today. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Tennessee Volunteers, the Vanderbilt Commodores, and, of course, the Nashville Predators. Hiller, call the Happy Face truck today.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg. And this is Smashville.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, given back to Forsberg, and here come the Habs.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Christmas shopping is in full swing at Electronic Express. Come into our convenient locations for great deals on all of your favorite brands like Samsung, Microsoft, LG, Sony, Apple, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. 4K TVs, computers, appliances, smart home, headphones, gaming, and more. Save up to 40% with up to 48 months free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and get free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express, we make Christmas happen.
Need cash for the holidays or to pay off credit cards right now? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. This is great. You can keep your low mortgage rate and still get cash out. That's right. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low rate. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan will come your way, and it only costs you around $300 a month. Use that money to pay off whatever bills you have, credit cards, consolidate other debt, or start a home improvement project. With Loan Pronto, you can access up to 95% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need the appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Do it now before the holidays. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
312 Pizza Company is a family-owned restaurant located in the heart of Germantown, serving up authentic Chicago-style eats right here in Nashville. 312 Pizza Company only uses the best all-natural ingredients and makes everything in-house from scratch every single day. And trust me, you can taste the difference. They've got deep dish pizza, thin crust pizza, their Italian beef. You'll taste the freshness. Stop in for a pint of local beer and a slice of pizza, or order online at 312pizzaco.com. 312 Pizza Company, Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. I started my first business in a dingy basement of a factory in 1986. Instead of customers, my visitors were rats, birds, flies, and snakes. To psych myself up that I was going to succeed, I wore formal business attire and a tie to that lonely factory basement every day. I was a total type A business geek, crunching spreadsheets for my accounting. Today, my fifth successful business, Patriot Software, makes accounting simple for accountants and non-accountants alike, eliminating the need for many of us business geeks to crunch spreadsheets or wear formal business attire ever again. Go to PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of accounting software free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
Accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Can't get enough Vanderbilt basketball?
Intercepted right all by himself for a one-hand flush.
Your home for the Commodores is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Put it up. It's good. Count it.
Join Coach Jerry Stackhouse and his team on their journey through the SEC.
Pull to trigger. Yes from three.
Check out Vandy Hoops on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey, this is Ryan Johansson. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
3 and out 10 times coming out of halftime. During this 3-game losing streak, you had negative 33 yards on the opening drive of the third quarter. Is that a failure to adjust coming out of halftime? What's going wrong?
No, we had some egregious penalties and mistakes. So, I mean, it's 1st and 22, give up a sack, and 3rd and 27, and we don't block for a screen that nobody's going to convert, but hopefully we can help the punt team and get the screen started so then we can use our punter to maybe change field position. So
for the season on 10 3 and outs?
evaluating, everything. It's execution. It's our ability to coach them and make sure that the details are fixed, and it's just not one thing.
So that was Mike Vrabel yesterday. Apparently, Mike Vrabel went on his coach's radio show and said yesterday that he is not making any changes to the coaching staff during the season. Now, I was minding my business, and I got a bad back, so I'm sitting there kind of minding my business on the couch, and I see that Mike Vrabel is not going to make any coaching staff changes, to which I wasn't surprised by. But the reaction on Twitter was like, what? What? No, he's not going to make any cut down. He's not going to, oh my God, what's up? And I think it's the same people that are like, yeah, fire the general manager. We're not going in the right direction, even though we only lost by 4 points to the defending AFC champions 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I think it's that guy that's equally as mad that Vrabel is not firing Todd Downing in the middle of the season. One, were you surprised by that?
About not making a coaching change in the middle of the season?
But by Vrabel saying, and I don't know the context of what he said, I just know that he said on his radio show yesterday.
But saying that he is not going to make a coaching change in the middle of the season.
Any coaching changes to the staff. No changes.
That doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
No, not at all.
Two, would it even be the right move to do that?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. What good would that do other than satisfying all of the hashtag fire Todd Downing brigade out there? What good does that really do to bring in a new offensive coordinator in the middle of the season?
Well, I think I was looking at it as more like the whole coaching staff than I just was the coordinator. I think most people probably looked at it as the offensive coordinator.
More obvious one.
I mean, I'm looking at the
Craig
special teams.
Aukerman?
I'm looking at the special teams coach.
I mean,
because
either.
Special teams ain't worth a damn and hasn't been worth a damn for years. And even yesterday, they gave up, or Sunday, they gave up an opening kickoff to start the second half for a touchdown, and which got negated by what really wasn't a holding goal. And so, I mean, I think the special teams is a freaking joke.
But also,
and I
feel
do
like
think somebody new in special teams could make a change right away. So that I actually think could matter. The offensive coordinator, I heard in Green Bay from somebody I trust, I heard that Vrabel's the one calling the plays on offense. Now, I don't know if, Vrabel calls them all or if Downing calls some or if Vrabel says, during a play, hey, on the next play, let's run 29 gumbo, or I don't know how that all works. But I heard Vrabel's calling the plays. So when you all get mad at Todd Downing, and I get mad at Todd Downing too, for a direct snap to the running back down by 19 points.
Because that's stupid.
That's coming from Vrabel. And if it's not coming from Vrabel, then Vrabel was on the headset when they called it, and Vrabel has the authority to overrule it. And so, I mean, I think there will be coaching staff changes at the end of the year. I mean, I think what happens big picture with this organization at the end of the year is a complete and total wild card. I think there will be coaching staff changes at the end of the year. I do not foresee Todd Downing as the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans entering the 2023 season. Don't see it. That being said, I think the reason why Vrabel could confidently go on his radio show and say no coaching changes is because he probably went to Amy and said, look, after you've made this last change, we saw what ended up happening to the team with the distraction and all the talk and everything else. We got to have stability. We got to have everybody coming in doing the same job every day, at least for the rest of the season. Like, at least give me that. And she probably agreed to it. And so that's how he probably could definitively go up there and say no coaching changes the rest of the year. Because if this is like the A.J. Brown trade, where it's not as long as I'm the coach, and then Amy Adams Strunk gets mad, and they turn around and fire Todd Downing next week, then Vrabel will look like he has zero power. And that you talk about just wiping out all of his credibility. So I don't think it's an accident that Vrabel went out of his way to say no coaching changes. I don't think it really makes a difference at this point if they make a change at the coordinator position or not.
Why?
Because I heard Vrabel's calling the plays. So if Vrabel's calling the plays, then what's firing Todd Downing going to do?
But I also think, okay, what's the extent? And I know we don't know the answer to that question, but is it, Vrabel's calling plays, as in Vrabel's calling like 4 or 5 plays a game? Or is it Vrabel is calling every single play, which honestly I can't really expect that he is, but maybe I'm wrong. I think that's a question to ask first. And but then you could also say you fire Todd Downing in the middle of the season, Tim Kelly plays the rest of the season.
If Vrabel's calling the plays,
that much of a shakeup.
If Vrabel's calling the plays, that is such a freaking clown show. if that's what's going on. And I was told that's what's going on from somebody I trust in Green Bay, that Vrabel's calling the plays. And if that's true.
How would the person in Green Bay know?
Well, I mean, it wasn't somebody who lives in Green Bay that told me that.
But somebody told you when you were in Green Bay.
In Green Bay. Somebody told me that Vrabel's calling the plays. And, I mean, if that's true, what a clown show. All right, phones. 615-737-1025. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What do we have in our text line, Caroline?
One texter texts in and says, I will defer and agree with Coach Mack's take on the Jags loss.
I'm going to assume that Dave McGinnis, who works for the Titans, did not have the same take that I had, in which it was that the owner told the team that they suck and the team had no confidence and played with distractions last week and lost to the Jags. I'm going to assume that Dave McGinnis, who works for the Titans, and I love Dave McGinnis, but I'm going to assume that he didn't have that take?
Probably not.
You don't think that somebody who worked for the Titans blamed the owner for the loss?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that Dave McGinnis is wrong, but we just had Willie Donnick yelling and screaming in the last hour of the midday show about so I didn't even know what happened. Apparently yesterday.
I just walked in yelling.
Willie was just yelling, and I didn't even know what it was about. Apparently Lindsey Rowley, got smart with people on Twitter about how they don't know anything compared to the coaches or whatever. And it's like, I mean, guys, like it's a team broadcast. This is.
It worked for the team.
This is what the players' parents watch. Like, they're not going to get on there and say, Johnny Joe sucks. I mean, I've never seen in my entire life. I've never seen, and this includes like even the Skip Careys and the Marty Brennemans and the Harry Careys and the guys that, back in the day people used to be able to get away with saying things. I have never, ever, ever, ever seen a team broadcaster be like, I didn't need to fire the coach. I've never seen that before. And so, I mean,
because
again.
In a roundabout way, they're colleagues.
They're not in a roundabout way, in a direct way. Like, I mean, you said that Vrabel called a town hall for the people that sell tickets last week to pep rally up the boys. What's next?
Travis Texan says, with the misconduct take, does that negate his extension?
That would be if there was misconduct that led to John Robinson's firing, coming back from, whether it's the Green Bay plane or whatever kind of misconduct it would be that we haven't heard of. I don't know. I haven't seen his extension. So my guess would be this. If it was misconduct and they fired him for it, they probably paid him anyways. And I don't even know why anybody would care about that. Like, it's not your money.
Well, maybe just trying to get to the bottom of what happened.
I mean, so the idea of screw him out of his thing. If the Titans don't want anybody to know, and it is clear that the Titans don't want anybody to know, then they probably pay him his money, have him sign what's called a non-disclosure agreement. Nobody talks about it, and on you go. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Again, add the assistant coaches. Vrabel is not changing the assistant coaches. Add that. We'll get back to your phones. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
Bowl season is here.
Keeps his feet out of a tackle, and it's a race now.
Catch all the action right here at 1025, 1063 The Game, and 94.9 The Fan.
Down the middle, right on the money, touchdown.
All the big moments of bowl season are presented by Boomba's Craft Pizza and Tap House. Pizza, beer, sports. Headquartered in East Nashville.
My goodness, look out.
Bowl season is on 1025 and 1063 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus. Our forecast today starting off cold with temperatures in the 30s, but the afternoon pushing toward the upper 50s. A light sprinkles possible, but heavier rain moves in overnight tonight and lasts on and off throughout your Wednesday.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Give the gift of luxury this holiday season. Nothing is more elegant than a trip to the Omni Nashville Hotel. Gift cards from Bob's Steakhouse or Mocara Day Spa make wonderful gifts for any occasion, especially during the holidays. The foodie in your life will enjoy an evening of fine dining from the award-winning Bob's Steakhouse. Bob's Steakhouse specializes in serving big, flavorful steaks next to Texas-sized portions of delicious sides. The special person in your life will be comforted with the gift of relaxation and rejuvenation when they receive a gift card to Mocara Day Spa. Let the spoiling begin with a soothing facial, hot stone massage, body treatment, salon service, or mani-pedi. Bob's Steakhouse and Mocara Day Spa in the luxurious Omni Nashville Hotel. Purchase your gift cards today.
Signs First, Nashville's leading locally owned and operated sign and physical media company, has been supporting local community organizations for over 30 years. Signs First offers a 10% discount to all churches, nonprofits, and charities. Go to sfnash.com.
Hey, it's Hutton. Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Replace your old unit fast before new regulations increase prices up to 20%. Get a new unit today at today's price and receive up to $1,500 off, or get 18 months of no payments, so the first payment is not until spring of 2024. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Schedule your appointment now at springhillac.com. That's springhillac.com.
Are you looking for Tennessee-grown and crafted THC, CBD, Delta 8, Delta 9 products? Then float on over to ounceofhope.com. On top of the widest selection of luxury edibles and smokables, their customer service team is high quality and prepared to help select the right cannabis product for your needs. Their knowledgeable team will have you flying high with a smile. That's ounceofhope.com, made locally in Memphis. Ounce of Hope is Memphis Flyers' best cannabis shop 2 years in a row. Legal THC delivered to your door. ounceofhope.com.
Your company's hiring. Who isn't? We would love to show you how to use 1025 The Game to attract and retain employees. We can also help you find the exact person you're looking for with a targeted digital campaign. You can trust our team to help you build your team. Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Chase McCabe.
The best way to figure that out is to watch Twitter.
Willie Donick.
Trying to move down the field for the winning field goal.
And Derek Mason.
I'm putting in my hours and I'm out of here.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Second sack today by the Jacksonville defense, and now it's 3rd and 27. Tannehill with his screenplay, and the fans are going to hate this. A chorus of boos here in Tennessee. Second 3 and out today by the Titans offense.
I mean, I wonder if Andrew Catalan on that CBS broadcast, if he could have said yesterday when Vrabel went on his radio show and said that there's going to be no coaching staff changes, i.e. they're not firing Todd Downing, Andrew Catalan could have been like, and Vrabel said in his radio show, no coaching changes, and the fans are going to hate this.
Boo!
There you go. Exactly. What do we have in the phone line? 615-737-1025.
Ethan Texan says that if it was for some misconduct from Green Bay, then why wouldn't they have fired Downing too?
Because the Downing thing is different than the guy who's in charge. The Todd Downing thing is Todd Downing got a DUI. He's not going to be the last guy in the history of America who gets a DUI. He's not going to be the last guy in football who gets a DUI. And honestly, he's probably not going to be the last guy in football who gets a DUI this season. That is a legal thing. I mean, I'm sure he'll plead to something and he'll do some community service or something. And then the league will suspend him. And then, honestly, he probably won't even be with the Titans by the time the league comes down and suspends him, because I think Todd Downing is getting fired at the end of the year. That is different than, hey, you were in charge of this and our investigation found that, and you said when we asked you, you said this, and then we have this text message right here that says that you lied to us. And again, the difference here is that John Robinson, to the best of our knowledge, didn't get fired for cause. And so if he doesn't get fired for cause, then they have to pay him. Well, if it's bad or the owner feels lied to, then you pay him to go away. That's the difference. They're not the same things here. Again, it's if there's some sort of misconduct by the guy who was in charge. Think about it like this. College sports, back when you couldn't pay the players. Player gets paid, right? Coach gets fired. Well, why doesn't the player get in trouble? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's next?
You go to the top. You're not going to like this one.
Give it to me.
Texture says, here we go again. This is why you are so stupid. You say for years that John is bad and maybe there needs to be a change.
Wait, whoa. When did I say that?
You have never said that. I can attest to that. You have never said that John Robinson should be fired.
Thank you.
And then they make one and you backtrack and say, oh, was this the right choice? Should they have done this? Yes, they should have fired him. It's her company and she can do what she wants. So,
Yeah, so if she wants to run it into the ground,
that's her choice.
Which is what looks like again, the Mike Sando column in The Athletic. Mike Sando has been covering football for like 50 years or however long he's been doing it. The Athletic, who is like $500 million in the hole, paid a boatload of money to get Mike Sando to come to The Athletic from ESPN so they could basically use his sources. Like, this isn't like Adam Schefter who's racing out there to get news. Mike Sando talks to people off the record, and they're able to be honest with him and more coy with him because they know that their name is not going to be put to it. And then they put it out, and then he puts it out there. And that's why we, every summer, get the quarterback tears. And, oh, my God, can you believe Lamar Jackson is a Q3 quarter, whatever you want to call it. And in this, every single person that he talked to said that what the Titans are doing is stupid. And that's the problem, is that these people across the league, they don't care about the Titans. Like, you want to look at it like Amy Adams Strunk is entitled to do whatever she wants to do. And I'm not saying she can't do that. I have never argued that she does not have the authority to do what she did.
Todd Downing has the authority to call whatever plays he wants to call, but clearly the fan base is not using that argument in that scenario.
That is if he's calling the plays.
Yes.
I've been told Vrabel's calling the plays for whatever you want. But Vrabel has authority too. But again, it goes back to, I'm not challenging her authority on being able to hire whoever she wants. But it's just like this executive. An unnamed league executive. So somebody who's currently in the NFL said to Mike Sando, quote, "It hardly ever works when someone is the power coach. You can make the case Vrabel hasn't coached long enough to learn the intricacies of personnel, player acquisition, trade, and free agent markets, not to mention the salary cap and all the other things that GMs do that go way beyond the draft. Everyone will say he's going to get help, but this is a classic, only the people I trust." So all these people are like, oh, yeah, this is a bad direction to go down now. Or the other one, the current coach, who said that even Vrabel could be on the hot seat if the owner is such a wild card.
I don't like that.
So that's the point, is that, she's entitled to do whatever she wants. We're not arguing that she has the authority to do it, but we are arguing that it's not the smart thing to do. What's next?
Chuck Texan says, so Jared, your answer would be they should have kept Robinson and kept letting him screw up first and second round picks, keep letting him throw money at bad free agents.
So I think people don't understand that they're not holding the 2023 NFL draft today. So that there's not a, if you don't fire John Robinson today, then he will mess up next year's draft. I think we all understand how the calendar works, right? And so we know that there is no draft this week.
No,
there's no draft next week. There's no draft next month. There's none of it. These people are like, he had messed up enough first-round picks. It was time for him to go. You're in the middle of your season. That's why nobody understands why the Titans did what they did. That's why nobody gets it. We talked about it all day yesterday, and it is the message that you may not want to hear or you may think is true. But the message to the team is you suck. If that is why they fired John Robinson, is because they didn't like, quote unquote, the direction of the team. What that means is the direction of the team, i.e. the players, that they're no good. And so all those players in there are like, man, we thought we were having an okay season and we were in first place and, battling through some injuries, and now they tell us we suck, and now we don't even know who's in charge around here. And now we have to go out and play Justin Herbert and the Chargers that just lit up Miami and all of those things. And that is Looney Tune land, is what dumb teams do. And not even dumb teams do this. That's what makes it crazy. And you all want to talk about first and second round picks. He's not picking anybody in the first and second round between now and the end of the season. And you know that.
And I will continue to go back to this because I believe that a lot of fans conveniently to leave out this fact whenever somebody has the same take as that. It is John Robinson got extended after a lot of failed bad first-round picks, second-round picks, and bad free agent signings. He got an extension after Isaiah Wilson. He got an extension after Julio Jones. So you cannot continue to use Julio Jones and Isaiah Wilson as reasons why John Robinson got fired.
I mean, what this is, the only people that like what the Titans did, and by what I mean by the decision they made and or the timing of it, the only people that like this are the people who stand in front of their TV and they get mad in the first half of a game and talk about firing the coach and the general manager, and then by the second half, if the Titans come back, they don't care. They've changed their tune. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what that is.
It's convenient.
It is the anger that they have in the moment of fire the general manager. And that's what people talk to me about, like the difference between the Titans and the Preds. And I'm like, the Preds, we wait. The season was over. And then we said, okay, now it's time. The season's over. They've got cap space. They've got a massive decision to make on Philip Forsberg. They've got to figure out the future of their team. They got to figure out what kind of players they want for the future of their team. It's time. Change the coach, change the GM, start it over. And the Predators are like, nah, we're good. But that's different. I'm not saying that they should fire David Poile today. I don't think that does them any good. And even then, there's still a trade deadline to come up here in which there could be massive decisions. It did the Titans no good to tell the players that you don't like the team going into that Jags game. And they got their asses kicked. So I think I was right about it. And I'm the only person that picked the Jags. 615-737-1025. The coach is here. Coach Bob Shoop. All right, what did the film say? We will get to that with Coach Bob Shoop next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You love the game.
The doors on the board. Touchdown at TSU.
We live the game.
Going up against that defense, he can make some plays and take that next step.
We are
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game. Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, Teron Davenport here for Superbook Sports. When it comes to sports, it's all happening right now. Football, basketball, hockey, and soon enough, the World Cup. And there's no better place to wager on all of it than Superbook Sports. When you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day, Superbook will give you a bonus up to $1,000. Yes, $1,000. When the sports world is busy, it's time to get busy winning some money. So download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com to wager and win today. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Nothing says I love you like the gift of jewelry. A sapphire ring, a diamond necklace, a colored gemstone earring, an anniversary band. And around here, the diamond destination is Genesis Diamonds. With decades of experience, our legendary value combined with worldwide connection, Genesis is here to help make this Christmas the most unforgettable ever. And to make it easy to splurge, our special 0% finance offer has been extended through Christmas Eve. So you can make any holiday purchase and spread your payments over 5 years and enjoy an interest rate of 0% with absolutely nothing down. Our showcases are filled with exquisite diamond rings, earrings, pendants, bracelets, bands, as well as a fabulous selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, starting as low as $35 a month with nothing down. And if you're planning an engagement this holiday season, this special finance offer includes all of our designer engagement rings and all GIA certified diamonds. Buy now, spread your payments over 5 years with zero interest and nothing down. Say I love you louder than ever this holiday with the gift of diamonds from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills in Cool Springs. Approved credit.
Need cash for the holidays or to pay off credit cards right now? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. This is great. You can keep your low mortgage rate and still get cash out. That's right. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low rate. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan will come your way, and it only costs you around $300 a month. Use that money to pay off whatever bills you have, credit cards, consolidate other debt, or start a home improvement project. With Loan Pronto, you can access up to 95% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need the appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Do it now before the holidays. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Happy holiday from Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
conveniently located where you live and work with various locations in and around the Nashville area. Houston's physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and many other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they strictly adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff's safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all Houston physicians and specialties, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
Tonight, your Nashville Predators return home to take on the Edmonton Oilers. Coverage begins at 6 on your home for Smashville. WPRT FM Peagrove, WBUZ HD2 Laverne, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Live from Bridgestone Arena, Preds and Oilers tonight at 7 o'clock. Connor McDavid is in the house. And speaking of in the house, with us right now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Coach Bob Shoop. All right, Coach. We had to move you last week off of Tuesday because the Titans decided to fire their general manager. Now, I watched the game back too. Now, I know you looked at the film. I watched the game back too. And I sat there watching the game, the Jags game back, and I thought I was almost wasting my time because I had already decided for myself that the reason the team got smoked by that horrible Jags team is because the owner fired the general manager. It was a week of distractions, questions, players getting asked questions, the owner not talking about it. And when teams get distracted, just like when you were at Tennessee and you guys lost to South Carolina with all of Jalen Hurts nonsense, I just think that when teams have distractions, I hear you football people talk about how no distractions. I just felt like this was classic case of team is losing faith in itself because the owner is saying so, and a massive distraction that everybody had to deal with through the week, and they lose to a bad team at home. What did the tape say?
Without question, since you've asked me to embark on this challenge of watching these guys the last few weeks, this was the poorest performance by a mile. It really was. I think expectations were that this team was going to go out and rally and beat the Jaguars and put themselves in position to win another AFC South, championship. I don't think that's why they lost the game. I think there's two things that stood out on the film. I don't care whether you're the Tennessee Titans, the Tennessee Vols, Father Ryan High School. If you lose the turnover margin 4-0, you're not going to win the game. That's very difficult to overcome. And some of those turnovers were, in the coming out area, which gave the Jaguars a very, very short field, and the going in area right before the half when Derrick Henry fumbled on the screen pass, which was really an 8-point turnaround. They're going in potentially to score before the half. And then suddenly the Jaguars drive the field, and you hope the Titans' defense, which had played fairly well to that point, gets a stop at that point. But then, that became the backbreaker because then they return the kickoff to start the second half, like you said, which was called back, but they drive the field. Then you have the 3-and-out. They get another score. Then it's another 3-and-out, another score. And then they try the direct snap to Derrick Henry, which leads to a field goal, which is just a disastrous 8 to 10 minutes for sure. So that's how they lost, and that's when they lost. Now, the firing of the general manager certainly wasn't optimal, the timing of it. And I'm certain that there were distractions. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, it's, a week ago today, which is generally speaking the players' off day in the NFL, but players going home, talking to their wives, what's this mean for us? Coaches going home, talking to their families, what's this mean for us? Where are we right now? And to have a team that's, 7 at that particular point, 7-5, 3 games ahead in the division, on point, on pace to win a division championship. And like you said before, you have a GM who, I think we did it since he's been on the job, has the 9th best record in the NFL. Is on his way to a 4th straight playoff performance and a 3rd straight division title. I just think, I said it last week, I think the people who have the ownership's ear, saw a flawed roster and saw really, really bad optics, in the Philadelphia game, and the former star player of this franchise going out and really embarrassing this team. And it all became one thing after the other, after the other, and after the other, and that ultimately became the final straw.
So you football people all the time always say when they talk about distractions, like the idea of causing for a player to cause a distraction is almost like a felony. It's like, don't you dare bring distractions to this football team because this week we have a very big game against Appalachian Tech, and we cannot afford to have 1 second of our focus away from Appalachian Tech, they won 7 of their last 49 games, and we can't be number 8. And then whenever distractions happen, and I feel like this happened to you guys at UT, but whenever distractions happen, then after the game, everybody has a microphone in front of their face, and they're like, no, we weren't distracted. That's not why we lost. And I'm like, if it's such a big deal to you coaches that we have no distractions no matter what, then you have a massive distraction that takes up everybody's time, especially the head coach. You can't tell me he doesn't play a factor into it.
We're human beings. I mean, it's not robots out there playing the game. I mean, every single player who's on this football team, is on the team because of John Robinson in some way, shape, or form. I mean, every player maybe a different, percentage of that, but I mean, had a relationship with him. I heard Jeffrey Simmons in interviews last week saying, "Can we stop talking about this and start talking about the game?" I mean, and Jeffrey's as locked in and focused in individuals I've ever been around. As I said, I mean, Coach Vrabel had to answer questions. The ownership didn't even come out and answer questions till the Teresa Walker interview and things along those lines, and put him in a difficult situation where he's trying to be locked in and focused and prepare his team for a big divisional game. So I'm sure there were distractions during the course of the week, but like I said to you off air, I think between those type of things and between the rah-rah speeches that occur before the game, once the ball's kicked off, football players are football players, and it locks in and they go out and execute. And on this particular day, the Titans did not execute, and the Jaguars, certainly for the last 35 minutes of the game, were the much, much better team.
Do you buy in at all to, even driving into the stadium? When I drove in there, it felt like it was the Mike Munchak era. Now, I mean, I like Mike Munchak a lot.
Sure.
And you were at Vandy when he was there,
Sure.
And I don't know if you were still at Vandy when Ken Wisenhunt took over,
Yes.
but it was bad. I mean, it was bad. You remember, it was bad. I mean, you guys were better than they were. And I felt when I drove in and there was no traffic, I felt like I was right back to the Munchak era, right back to the Wisenhunt era. And the game kind of felt like a Munchak game or a Wisenhunt game. I'm not going to say a Wisenhunt game. Those were like 42-3. But it felt like a Munchak game. And they haven't lost to Jacksonville at home since Mike Munchak was the coach. And I just, maybe it was, again, me because I couldn't understand why they would do this in the middle of a season with a big game coming up on Sunday. But I felt like that was a giant cloud over the team, not just the entire week when I was at the facility, but when I was at the game on Sunday.
If the team's an extension of the city, it certainly is. It was a cloud. I mean, people were talking about it all week. I mean, with social media and things along those lines, that's what we talked about last week when I was on the show. I mean, that was the topic of a conversation every week. Not about, hey, how do we stop Trevor Lawrence? Or, hey, how do we, block Arden Key coming off the edge? I mean, it was about the general manager being relieved of his responsibilities. And like I said, the timing certainly was not optimum. Unless the people who are in the ownership's ear said, listen, let's get a head start on the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Game, player interviews, the Combine, things along those lines. We can't be conducting a search, at this point or another at the end of the season, especially with the season being extended to, the first week of January now. But to your point, the optics the last 2 weeks in a league that prides itself on great parity, for a team that's leading the AFC South to get blown out and the outcome of the game to have been determined before the first snap of the fourth quarter, that's 2 weeks in a row that's happened.
Will there ever be like a film as a coach that you're watching and you'll be dissecting it and say, well, clearly Johnny missed that throw because his mechanics weren't very good because his girlfriend dumped him on Thursday?
I've dealt in my career with 18 to 22-year-old males. These are grown men. Now,
Right.
some of them, it's a little bit different, to be honest. I mean, the maturity level of some of the players that I've worked with have been different. I could share stories off air that you'd shake your head at. But I think this, it is funny because there's two things that I did notice watching the film. And like I said, the optics were bad when you're watching the coach's copy or the All-22 and it shows the scoreboard and you can read the Titans in the stands, which means there's nobody sitting there. That looked bad. You could hear the booing. You could hear the fire certain coaches on the air when you're watching the game on television. But the two things that I did notice, you talked about the mechanics, and you just used the example of a quarterback. I do think you're looking at a quarterback who's lost a little bit of confidence in his offensive line, in maybe the system. And where I noticed it is his mechanics with his footwork are the same regardless of the depth of the routes. That's why he could hit Hooper, he could hit Quanquo on those short little quick ones. But when the routes go beyond 10 yards, 12 yards, 15 yards, his mechanics are exactly the same. And the reason I feel qualified a little bit to say this is when I was at Penn State, I watched Christian Hackenberg go through the exact same thing. He had lost a little bit of confidence in the offensive line, and somehow, some way, his mechanics suffered. And the other thing I noticed was the body language of some of the defensive players. Football's a weird game, because in basketball, in baseball, and hockey, you play both offense and defense. But in football, you're not two separate teams, but you're two separate units. And I saw a little bit of the body language of the defense, I thought, even from the coach's film in the game. And they get that fourth down stop, in the middle of the third quarter. The game's still a game at that point. And they get the fourth down stop where Weaver breaks up the pass, and it's a big stop right there. And, on the teams that I've been a part of that have been really good and really energetic, really enthusiastic, there's a lot of celebrating together. And on that play, it just seemed to be, nice job, jog off the field. And that's the one thing that I did notice, a little bit of body language with some of the defensive players and the mechanics of the quarterback on the offensive side.
Do you think that can come from a lack of trust of the organization? I keep going over the message that was sent from the owner. If there's no misconduct, so it's not the Green Bay plane or it's not somebody lied about something, it's just they weren't happy with the direction of the team. Well, you fire the coach, and I don't think the owner spoke to the team about this. So now the head coach, who's the subordinate of the general manager, has to go in there and tell the team why they did what they did. And the message is we weren't happy with the direction of the team. Well, the players are the direction of the team. So it's like, well, hell, my organization thinks I suck.
I think any successful organization, I always say there's four parts to it. Culture, there's people, there's development of people, and then there's strategy. And the culture, everybody from the outside looking in thinks the Titans have had a great culture, no question. And when something like this happens, when big decisions are made, I don't think there was a power struggle. But I also, I don't think Coach Vrabel heard about it at the same time the rest of us did, like might have been intimated. I do think the ownership has a responsibility to address the team and say this is what happened and this is why it happened. I don't necessarily think they have the responsibility to address us, but I do think they have the responsibility to address the team. And anytime you make a big change like this, I think you have to have a plan moving forward, and that's ultimately the question. So, like I said, ultimately when the ball was kicked off at noon on Sunday, I tend to think that the players weren't distracted and the coaches weren't distracted. I think the Jaguars went out and executed really well. And I'll say this again because I know we're going to lead into this at some point. If you said after 13 games the Titans would be 2 games up in their division with 4 games to play, regardless of how we got here, maybe you'd be excited about that. How we've gotten here is a little bit shaky because the last 3 weeks have been a steady downhill fall right there. But, 2 weeks ago, the Bengals came in here as a 50-50 game against a team who might be playing the best football in the AFC. A week ago is a team that's certainly playing the best football of anybody in the NFL and did it again this week to the Giants. This week we expected, and I said to Caroline on Thursday, I thought without question the Titans would come out and win the game. I was very, very surprised. And as I said, the first half, it's 14-13. You're in your 2-minute drive. Your best player's got the ball in his hands. He's going in to get it in the red zone. He fumbles, and you expect your defense going to have his back at that point, and they drive down the field. And
DB lets the ball go right through
McCreary
his hands.
goes right through his hands. Zay Jones makes a catch in the corner for a touchdown. And then suddenly it's a downhill. Momentum's a very, very powerful thing. More in the college game, I think, because you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old males. But in the pro game, momentum's a powerful thing. And I thought Jaguars capitalized on that momentum in the third quarter, and the Titans fell prey to that.
Coach Shoop's with us. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Coach Bob Shoop. I will say this. You might have picked the Titans. I picked the Jags on Friday. Did. I tell you right now. And picked them on the pregame. Just saying that. Maybe I should be coach. Coach Shoop's with us. All right. The next thing, Vrabel says he's not firing anybody off the staff, including his offensive coordinator. What's Coach Shoup think about that? We'll get into that coming up next. And what the tape showed from Todd Downing and his play calling. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline wants to tell you about Caesars Sportsbook.
Yes, I do. It is time for the Caesars Sportsbook Report. Now, Caesars has tons of promos going on every day, but your very first bet with the Caesars Sportsbook app, promo or not, it's on Caesars, up to $1,250. Just sign up using the promo code RADIOFULL, one word, RADIOFULL, and then place your first bet. And if you win, that money is all yours. But if not, don't worry about it because you'll get that stake back as a free bet. Now, Argentina just defeated Croatia. We've got France and Morocco coming up tomorrow at 1 o'clock. France is favored to win, but Morocco at plus 525 odds to win. It's worth just a little bit of money. But hey, that's my take. Do it how you want to do it. Just do it with the Caesars Sportsbook app. Open to new users in Tennessee who are 21 or older. If qualifying bet loses, bet amount returned as a credit. Must use it in 14 days. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesars Sportsbook. We are all Caesars.
Every Wednesday at 8:45. Come on. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:45 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Choice is Yours, Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to JarrettFire.com. JARRETT Fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture, eat strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with 3-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
I love it. OMG. I had no idea.
Oil Fire Whiskey is finally here. Oil Fire, a dangerously seductive spirit. You will like it. She will love it. Think you can handle it? Oil Fire, 70 proof whiskey. It's amazing.
Christmas shopping is in full swing at Electronic Express. Come into our convenient locations for great deals on all of your favorite brands like Samsung, Microsoft, LG, Sony, Apple, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. 4K TVs, computers, appliances, smart home, headphones, gaming, and more. Save up to 40% with up to 48 months free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and get free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make Christmas happen.
Have Hattie B's take care of all your holiday cooking. Hattie B's Holiday Family Meals. Hot ham, hot turkey, mashed potatoes, giblet gravy, and more. Place your orders before December 16th at events@HattieB.com. And you can pick up your order at the Hattie B's Test Kitchen at 450 Atlas Drive. Hattie B's Holiday Family Meals. So hot.
It's on. It's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way, I'm watching the game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
3 and out 10 times coming out of halftime. During this 3-game losing streak, you had negative 33 yards on the opening drive of the third quarter. Is that a failure to adjust coming out of halftime? What's going wrong?
No, we had some egregious penalties and mistakes. So, I mean, it's 1st and 22, give up a sack, and 3rd and 27, and we don't block for a screen that nobody's going to convert, but hopefully we can help the punt team and get the screen started so then we can use our punter to maybe change field position. So
for the season on 10 3 and outs?
evaluating, everything. It's execution. It's our ability to coach them and make sure that the details are fixed, and it's just not one thing.
There you go. Vrabel yesterday talking about the offense. Would later say on his radio show last night, no changes to the coaching staff the rest of the season. Coach Bob Shoop is with us. Let me ask you this question. Sunday against the Jags, the tape, because film never lies, was the play calling from the Titans as bad on offense as the fans that surely were not happy about Vrabel saying no coaching staff changes? Was the film as bad as were the fans justified, or is Vrabel right that it's the players and not the coaching?
It's a combination, but the one play call that we discussed in the last segment and you guys discussed before I came on the air, the direct snap at that point, that was a little bit of a questionable play call, I thought. I mean, every coordinator, I promise you, someone who's called defenses for 20 years, goes back and looks at a game, and the next game, the next perfect game that I call would be the first perfect game I called. So coaches are harder on themselves than any fan or any tweeter or anything along those lines can be. I assure you that. But I'll say it again. I mean, they went down the field on the very, very first drive of the game. They tried a flea flicker on the opening play of the game, unsuccessfully, but it may have loosened them up for a split second. They got the running game going. I thought there was a little bit of a blend between run and pass, and that's exactly what they hope to be. So it's 7-0 to start the game. You get the ball back on the next drive, and that was the series that I thought was kind of a momentum equalizer. They try to, put a Okonkwo on the edge to help protect in the pass game, to help Daly out. But it wasn't anything wrong with what their strategy was. It was the technique. When you're chip blocking a guy or you're making a guy do something, the way I've always defended as a defensive coach is chips usually come from the second level, not a guy on the line of scrimmage. So when he was on the line of scrimmage, all he did was give the defensive end a wider path to get to Tannehill. And when he got to Tannehill, he stripped the ball, and suddenly they get the ball at the 15-yard line. It's 7-7 at the blink of an eye. And that's when all of a sudden I think the Jaguars, got their confidence, got their mojo going.
Why are the Titans so bad in the second half of these games?
My experience as a defensive play caller, sometimes guys get into a rhythm on offense, and we talked about it a little bit. I think the first quarter of a game all the time as an offensive or defensive play caller, you're validating tendencies. You're looking at the other opponent saying, are they doing what they expected we were going to do? And if they are, then you continue with that game plan. And there's a lot of offensive coordinators that I had a good feel, and I can't speak to whether Coach Downing is this way or not, but a good feel. I would always tell our players, listen, they may get one early on us, but once I get into the second quarter, I'm going to have a real good feel for what they're doing. And you can watch that off previous tapes. Once they get into a game plan, especially teams that have, and I'm not saying the Titans do wristbands, because you can't make a lot of adjustments off a wristband calling game right there, because there aren't a new set of wristbands every series. So I always had a good feel for the middle of the second quarter on as to how, when I was in a groove, as to how an offense was going to attack us and call a defense to go after them. But I didn't think it was the play calling. Other than the direct snap, I didn't really like that. I thought there were some penalties. I think I'm still a big believer that you win and lose games in the offensive and defensive line, and I think the offensive line is continuing to struggle.
Is there any way for them to get better with the players they have on the offensive line, or is it just they need to wait for the offseason and get a new offensive line?
Well, I thought they had a better strategy running the ball. I've talked about this since even the Green Bay game. I think what you've seen happen is when they go with those big personnel groupings, what I mean by that is 2 or 3 tight ends in the game. They even put a tackle in the game at tight end at sometimes the other day. What ends up happening is the other teams match that personnel with big defensive personnel. And ultimately, the big defensive personnel that the teams put in is better in their matchup than the offensive personnel in those situations. So
Titans lose fat on fat is what you're saying.
That's correct. And then what I saw, I didn't think they did against Green Bay, but for the last 3 weeks in a row, I definitely think they have. And what they started to do, a lot of their bigger runs were in 3 wide receiver sets, the 50-yard run. A couple things where 85 Okonkwo was in the backfield as a lead blocker, doing different things along those lines, because you keep smaller people in the game then. You basically have 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 DBs in a game. And that's where they have better matchups. In the run game, they have better matchups. In the pass game, my concern is twofold. One, I think the left side of the line, not just the left tackle this week, but the left side of the line got beaten pretty significantly. I thought Arden Key, I thought Trayvon Walker, I thought Josh Allen were dominant. Whether it was with a bull rush, whether it was with a twist game, I thought they won that battle. And I think the Titans, if they're being real with themselves, would say that as well. And I talked about, because of that, I think the quarterback's mechanics are suffering. I think he's losing a little bit of confidence. And then Burks not being in there, that was tough because the receivers aren't winning enough of their one-on-one battles. When it's Hooper, when it's Okonkwo, when it's those guys and they're catching choice routes or flat routes or hitches at 8 to 10 yards, that's great. But nobody in the NFL is winning games by just methodically driving the field like that. They need big plays out of Woods. They need big plays out of Westbrook-Akine, and they're just not getting them. Tyson Campbell looked like the player people think that he can be. I mean, he was really pretty good out on the perimeter and did an excellent job. I think Derrick Henry, the 100-yard game's positive. But as I said to you, I think 2 of his runs accounted for 72 yards, and the other 15 accounted for 49 yards. So although he had statistically a better day, there were some inefficient runs. And what they scored on the first drive of the game. That was a methodical drive, drove right down the field. The second, then they scored on the third drive of the game. They had the explosive run, and then they had the crossing route to the tight end. And then they scored at the end of the game when the game was kind of out of hand, and really the Jaguars were in kind of a prevent defense.
Coach Bob Shoop is with us. One theory I have, too, on the fans that are bloodthirsty to fire the offensive coordinator, I don't think that more change after what happened last week would be a good idea for the team. I mean, it's almost Christmas. And so this team's going to make the playoffs. And I don't think that more change and more distractions would be a good idea for the team. What do you think?
I agree. I think, I don't know the dynamics in the offensive staff room. I don't think, having been in that building, I don't think Coach Vrabel's calling the offensive plays. I do think he has input. He's the head football coach. He can do whatever he wants. I think the dynamic, and I've been a defensive coordinator struggling in those moments where you're not having a good week, you're not having a good season, whatever it might be. And I think a lot of times the guy actually calling the game on Sunday is a little bit overrated because you're all sitting in there. Every coach in the room, Caroline, you've got the red zone. Jared, you got third down. I got first and second down, run game and pass game. I mean, everybody contributes to the ultimate game plan right there. And I've heard things about Tim Kelly and things like that. I mean, everybody is contributing. And if they have a good dynamic in that room, I'm sure there's some, hey, I need a little bit of help here. What are you thinking? Or what are you thinking? And I think it's a little bit of that, group think tank right there. And I think at this point, they need to close ranks and continue to do that. I think any more changes would be the wrong thing at this particular time.
Because that would be a distraction, and distractions are bad, right?
Distractions, especially when it's coaching or player distractions. The reason I didn't think it would be a distraction is because I didn't think the general manager impacted the day-to-day operation of a football team in preparation for a game. As I said, I think everybody had a relationship with John Robinson. Anybody who's a part of this organization is here in some way, shape, or form because of him. But I think, like I said, when the players got on the practice field, when the players are in the meeting, I find it very hard to believe they're sitting there hearing, the 1st and 10 game plan or the third down game plan and going, boy, I feel bad for John and his family. Now, the discussion in the locker room, yeah, sure. On the way home from work, when you get home and talk to your wife, when you talk to your family and things along those lines. But these are grown men. They have the ability, in my opinion, to multitask.
Has it ever happened, though, in your career where you're coaching somebody and you're a defensive coach, so say it's like a linebacker or something like that, and he's not playing well enough, and it's because he and his girlfriend broke up or his wife is moving away, whatever, and he's not playing better because of it. Well, I don't think on 3rd and 9 he's sitting there thinking to himself like, man, I wish he would take me back. But I do think it affects the player.
I think and I can speak for myself. I mean, I think not when you're at work, not when you're in the building, not when you're operating with your teammates or your colleagues as a coach, but I think there's those moments when you're driving home from work. I think those moments when we all have whether you're a sports radio host or whether you're a football player. I mean, we all have lives outside of what we do. Those players football is what they do, not who they are.
But some guys can turn it on and off, and some guys
I do. I agree with that. Some people can compartmentalize as well as anybody. I mean, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, are the greatest of all time at compartmentalizing. There's no question about that. But yeah. So I mean, obviously, they're not robots. They're human beings. They're affected by the relationships that they have, and I think it's the job. When you're a college coach, it's the job to as I said, identify and help the student athletes through that particular crisis that they're going through in their moment. But for the pro football players, this is their job, and it is their responsibility, during the time that they're in the building, during the time that they're on the field practicing, and on Sunday from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock to be the very best version of themselves. And this week, as I said, anybody can put on the film. It doesn't take a former college football coach to identify that the Jaguars were the better team.
Coach Bob Shoop's with us, 615-737-1025. We'll get to some of your phones for Coach if you got them, 615-737-1025. Plus, the declaration that I have made about the 2022 Tennessee Titans season. What does Coach make of that? And if you're still looking for Christmas gifts, check out Nashville's Best Deals and get half-off gift cards to Joyland, Old School Pizza, Seafood Sensation, River Queen Voyages, and more. Visit theGameNashville.com/deals now while supplies last.
ESPN Titans NFL Nation reporter Teron Davenport brings knowledge.
3 touchdowns. He was processing, getting rid of the ball quickly.
Passion.
Make no mistake about it. He absolutely has to hit the ground running.
And expertise on the two-tone blue and the NFL. Join TD every Monday at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Friday morning at 8 for all the latest on your favorite team. Teron Davenport is presented by Craneworks on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, their physicians are specialty-trained orthopedists that treat injuries and disorders of the upper extremities. Not all painful conditions require surgery. Therefore, their physicians look for non-surgical solutions first. Depending on your condition, you can be treated with a brace, splint, anti-inflammatory medications, rehabilitation, or if necessary, surgery. To experience world-class orthopedic care, visit tn.houston.com, where experience matters.
This holiday season, tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest gifts from TaylorMade and Bushnell. Featuring the TaylorMade Stealth Carbon Woods with 60 layers of carbon for faster ball speeds. And while you're there, grab a dozen TP5 golf balls. And from Bushnell, save up to $75 on the Tour V5 and Tour V5 Shift rangefinders. There's also gift cards for those favorite golfers on your list. Don't miss these holiday gifts and more happening now at Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee.
Hey, it's Jared. If you're listening to us on I-24 towards Murfreesboro or I-65 towards Spring Hill, make sure you check out 106.3 for another great way to hear Nashville's best sports talk.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. I began paying employees in 1988. I would handwrite checks and say, here you go, don't cash it until Tuesday. But a teenage employee said his dad wanted to see his pay stub. Pay stub? We don't have pay stubs. Get back to work. He said,
Dad works for the government, and state law requires that I receive a pay stub.
Crud! Now I'm supposed to be an expert on withholding payroll taxes and create pay stubs? That's why I created Patriot Software, to help employers with 1 to 100 employees do their payroll correctly with pay stubs. Go to PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Yo, Pablo Torre here, host of the ESPN Daily Podcast. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Pablo Torre. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Jonathan Hutton.
You have to put the ball in his hands in that moment.
And Chad Withrow.
My kicker's making no decisions on a football team.
Are in the game. Join them for NFL postgame after every Titans home game. Live from Landshark Bar and Grill in Margaritaville on Broadway. They'll break down that day's game and look ahead to the next one. NFL postgame is presented by Two Rivers Ford, Renter's Warehouse, and Superbook Sports on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Smashville, this is Sean Henry. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Is there a challenge now to keep the positivity you're talking about and the confidence level high when essentially the message here last week from ownership was that the roster isn't good enough to keep doing that?
I don't think we have any other choice. It's what we have to do. Is figure out who we have and get them ready to go play a game, take care of the football, try to have some ball production on defense. It's been a long time since we've, created a turnover or hit anybody hard enough to knock the ball loose or intercept it or tip it up in the air and catch it.
Boy, that was inspiring. Coach Bob Shoop's with us from Vrabel. Coach, you seem fired up by that quote. I heard a defeated Mike Vrabel when asked about, hey, ownership basically said your team's not good enough. How do you keep the positivity? Well, we don't have any other choice. That sounded defeated. Did you think it was defeated?
It sounds pretty grumpy.
You seemed like just the way you heard that cut, we come back from break, almost felt like somebody in church that was like, amen, amen. I don't want to speak for you, though, your take on that.
I think when you're the head football coach of an NFL team, or you're the head football coach of a college team, when you're in charge and you're the face of the organization, and immediately afterwards they're asking you challenging questions, it's tough. I mean, like I said, we're all human beings, and when I look at the team, he's right. They do need to move forward. I mean, what do you say? We don't have a choice.
Don't have a choice.
The
we
more
go to
positive
and tell ownership, hey, we don't stink, guys.
And I think, like I said, I saw the only thing I saw Sunday that was a little bit different than I'd seen in previous weeks, I thought, was the body language on the players on the defensive side of the ball. And that's 2 weeks in a row now. The defense have been carrying them. Now, injuries play a part. There's no hiding that, whether it's Danico Autry, Zach Cunningham, now Long. Now you had Fulton out last week. You had Avery out last week. So I get it. But injuries, the Titans are not the only team in the NFL that has injuries in Week 14 of the season. And we talked about the offense in the last segment, and Coach Vrabel said it in that bite right there. I don't think there were any sacks on Trevor Lawrence. They didn't get a significant amount of pressure. I thought the linebackers were okay. I thought Cole got exposed. I know he was very upset after the game and put out a tweet. He got exposed by Lawrence on a couple quarterback runs in the third quarter. But all in all, I thought the linebackers were okay. I've said this before. My concern with this defense has always been at the corner position. I use the term with the guys that I've coached, CSI. They're there to identify the body. That's what they look like. You see a lot of catch tackles go on, but you don't see a lot of pass breakups and plays. And I thought the same thing happened the other day. Mitchell had the big PI in the third quarter, and the touchdown right before the half. The ball went right through McCreary's hands for a touchdown. And that's something, very few sacks, very few takeaways. I did think Coach Bowen went to some really good zone pressures in the third quarter and did a decent job on those things. But Trevor Lawrence got out of trouble, found the seams, found the open holes, and good quarterbacks in the NFL are going to beat zone most every time.
So here's my thing yesterday. I think season's over, Bob. I think it's over. And I'll tell you why I think it's over. Because no matter which way Amy Adams Strunk wants to sit down 5 days after she made the decision, or 3 days or whatever it was, to fire John Robinson and say, I wanted our team to move forward. I wasn't happy with the direction of the team. I thank John and his family, or whatever, whatever they want to say it was. The message is, I don't like the players on my team. I don't believe in the players on my team. And once you say something like that, I don't think you can ever unring that bell. And I think that's what happened to this team. So I think they'll still make the playoffs because they're in a terrible division, and they're in position that even if they lost every game, the worst thing that could happen is that final week with Jacksonville's a win and in kind of game. So I think they'll still win the division, but I think they'll get smoked at home by the Ravens or the Bengals or whoever, 41-3. I think that things are only getting worse from here. And I think they're going to get crushed by the Chargers this weekend. I think the morale is so low, kind of like your UT team in 2016 or 2017, where it just all fell apart. You guys beat Florida and Georgia in 2016 and couldn't beat South Carolina and Vandy, even with everything on the line. I think that's what we're looking at here. I think season's over. Your thoughts?
I don't. like I said, with 4 weeks remaining in the season, you're 2 games up in your division. I mean, of winning a third consecutive division title. These players have great pride.
But did your UT players have great pride when y'all were playing for a trip to the Sugar Bowl and lost to Vandy?
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I mean, I think competitors, go out on the field and have a sense of competition, and they go out with great pride and really want to be the very, very best version of themselves. And I've seen Mike Vrabel. I know these guys when their backs against the wall. I think they're going to step up. I don't think it's going to be an easy road, and I think these next 4 weeks are going to be significant as far as the direction, not just of the 2022 version of the Tennessee Titans, but the future of the organization. I mean, it's not going to be. They're 7-6, and they have to go to San Diego. I say San Diego. They have to go play the LA Chargers this week, and the Chargers' strengths happen to be the Titans' weaknesses. And I think the Titans might be built a little bit flawed on defense because they do stop the run really well, but now teams don't even try to run the ball. I mean, the last couple of weeks, teams haven't even tried to run the ball, and the Eagles and Bengals just threw the ball, all over the lot against them. And then they play Houston at home.
They'll win that.
That should be a win.
Sure.
I mean, the Houston's 1-11-1 right now. Then they play Dallas at home. And
that'll be a loss.
It could be, and it all depends on maybe what Dallas has to play for at that particular point. And then it could come down to the final week of season in Jacksonville. And the problem is that the AFC South is so weak that the second place team is not a wild card. Is not going to be a wild card team probably. So you got to win the division. So the truth of the matter is you have to win one of these next 3 games. You have to beat Jacksonville, and you're in the playoffs, and you have a home playoff game.
I know, but it's so bad there they'll get killed when they get into the playoffs. They lost by 4 points to the Bengals 2 weeks ago, and the Titans didn't play a great game against Cincinnati. I think we can agree with that.
Yes.
But Cincinnati's probably a better team. But it probably, was a toss-up game. If T. Higgins doesn't make a great catch here, or if they don't hit the snapper there, or what, miss a 35-yard field goal, all those things. I think if they play the Bengals again, given where the team is right now and where I saw that headspace on Sunday against the Jags, I think they'll get run out of the building. And I think the fans in town feel that way. And again, it doesn't help when the owner is basically telling you after the Eagles game, guys, we suck. And that's what happened. And that's why I think it's over. Because if it's the Bengals or the Ravens, and I think the Ravens are a flawed team.
I do.
But if it's the Bengals or the Ravens, I think they're going to get smoked in the first round, and that's it. I think they did this to themselves. That had they not fired the general manager, had they gone status quo, even if the owner knew she was firing him the day the season was over, I think they would have won on Sunday against Jacksonville. I certainly don't think there would be this immense sense of panic. They would be able to stay together and, hey, nobody else believes in us, but we believe in us. But when the owner doesn't believe in us, then what the hell are we going to do?
That's what it has to be. It has to be a.
But how can you have that if the owner doesn't believe?
Us against the world mentality. I mean, we've always seen that. I mean, we've seen that in college sports, pro sport. Yeah, for sure. And to me, I think we've seen it in pro football. I think Bill Belichick has said this before. Past result has little to do with future outcome. It's how we prepare this week. It's the matchup against the Chargers and so on and so forth. Now, my bigger concern is from an X and O standpoint, the matchup against the Chargers. You're facing one of the young guns of all pro football right here in Justin Herbert with a great group of receivers who could throw the ball over the lot. They're playing with a significant amount on the line, at home, traveling across the country. And maybe right now, traveling across the country is exactly what this team needs. And if Vrabel's a Belichick disciple like that, it's his job to get the, today's the off day. When they come back tomorrow and have meetings and get ready for their first practice of the week in preparation for the Chargers, we're on to L.A. We're on to the Chargers. And I think we'll know a lot more about the mentality of this team, after that game. I do. And at that point, regardless of the outcome, the team's going to still be in first place in the AFC South.
Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Jerry has been waiting patiently and is up next for Coach Shoup. Go ahead, Jerry.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? One thing I'm seeing is that the players are in their own heads, and the coaches are not communicating well enough to prepare them. That's why they're losing in the second half and just barely holding on in games. What do you think?
Good call, Jerry.
I said that before. I said the body language. I'm not in the meeting rooms and I'm not, on the field in the huddle, but you could see the body language of the defensive players come the second half of games. I think they've been sold this is the Titan way. We're going to run the ball. We're going to stop the run. We're going to be tough. We're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And I've seen it before. I've seen When I coached at Penn State, when I coached at Vanderbilt, I knew if we gave up 21 or more points, it was unlikely we're going to win. And at Tennessee in the year when we had Dobbs and Kamara and Josh Malone and that good group of offensive players, it was a different game. You said, okay, we're going to outscore teams, so let's just not give up explosive plays. If we give up 28 or less, we're going to be fine. And I think they're getting the defensive players' body language looked a little discouraging this week. And as I said before, I think the quarterback, I look at it with his mechanics and his footwork, he looks a little bit uncomfortable. He looks like he's lost a little bit of confidence, and his footwork, regardless of the depth of the routes, looks like it's identical on every single play. And I do think the coaches need to these are grown men and they're professional athletes, but the coaches at this point, this is a great challenge, whether you're a high school, college, or pro football coach, getting players back after a difficult loss like this. Oh, yeah, by the way, it's a difficult third loss in a row. We got to get them back on track, show them what's right in front of them right there, and get ready to play the Chargers on Sunday.
Coach Bob Shoop's with us. Coming up next, the college football world lost a legend today in Mike Leach. What Coach Shoop thinks about that, remembering Mike Leach, we'll do that coming up. Stillman and Company, live from Bridgestone Arena, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown!
Tim. ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
How that team is built, I think there's a lot to like about them.
Every Tuesday at noon, Tim with Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Presented by Red Spirit and Wine in Bellevue on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus. Our forecast today starting off cold with temperatures in the 30s, but the afternoon pushing toward the upper 50s. A light sprinkles possible, but heavier rain moves in overnight tonight and lasts on and off throughout your Wednesday.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Give the gift of luxury this holiday season. Nothing is more elegant than a trip to the Omni Nashville Hotel. Gift cards from Bob's Steakhouse or Mocara Day Spa make wonderful gifts for any occasion, especially during the holidays. The foodie in your life will enjoy an evening of fine dining from the award-winning Bob's Steakhouse. Bob's Steakhouse specializes in serving big, flavorful steaks next to Texas-sized portions of delicious sides. The special person in your life will be comforted with the gift of relaxation and rejuvenation when they receive a gift card to Mocara Day Spa. Let the spoiling begin with a soothing facial, hot stone massage, body treatment, salon service, or mani-pedi. Bob's Steakhouse and Mocara Day Spa in the luxurious Omni Nashville Hotel. Purchase your gift cards today.
Response to Genesis Diamond's remarkable free financing offer has been so incredible that we're extending it through Christmas Eve. Last minute shoppers, we've got you covered with 5 years zero interest financing on any purchase with $0 down. So you can splurge on that handcrafted diamond ring and spread it over 60 whole months. Studs, bracelets, necklaces, bands, every color and every shape, starting at only $35 a month with $0 down. You can use this amazing offer on anything. Designer engagement rings, classics like diamond pendants and bracelets. All our hand-selected GIA certified diamonds are included, and so are our luxury pre-owned Rolexes. At Genesis, we've got our best collection ever, with case after case of stunning gifts that are romantic and timeless. And with Genesis guaranteed best value price and 5 years zero interest, $0 down financing offer, you can make this the best Christmas ever and still stay in budget. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit.
Chase McCabe.
Competition in all positions.
Willie Donick.
You know what? I went on the radio and I tried.
And Derek Mason.
The man that sleeps on the floor never falls out to bed.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
I would like to say this. You know, you think about Air Raid, you think about Mike Leach, you think about how innovative offensively that he was. And he was one of those guys that you found yourself wishing would win, wishing would be in the national championship picture from a media perspective, just because you never knew what he was going to say. You never knew what subjects he was going to tackle. You never knew what he wanted to broach. He didn't run from talking about anything. He always had something to say. And he was clearly a bright guy, very knowledgeable about a lot of different things, and his interest spread. It wasn't just about football. It was about politics. It was about news. It was about life. And he always had something to say. I was always interested in hearing what he had to say. I never had the pleasure of meeting him ever, but obviously I'm familiar with his era at Texas Tech and obviously Washington State before Mississippi. And then, you just look at it from that perspective, Mississippi State rather. And you just you heard what happened, and I said, my goodness, it's such a shame to be at practice on Saturday and then to have that happen. Life is it just reminds you how short life is.
Stephen A. Smith earlier today on the passing of Coach Mike Leach, the head coach at Mississippi State. Shocker pretty much to everybody. Coach Bob Shoop is with us. You were at Mississippi State before Coach Leach got there. And let me start by saying this. I've never met Coach Leach. I never interviewed Coach Leach. I saw Coach Leach from afar. And I think there are two different stories to be told there. I think there's one about the air raid and the offense and the numbers they put up and what they did at Texas Tech. And I think the second story is the personality of Mike Leach that I appreciated as a fan, because these college football coaches, I hate to break it to you, sometimes you guys take yourselves too seriously. Sometimes it's like, and I get it, you're making a lot of money. And if you're a head coach, you're making $5 million. And if you don't beat your rival, then you get fired. And even though it's great to collect the extra $20 million, it'd be nice to make even $40 million or something like that. And I think, it's the power of the job and the excitement of coming to work and all that. But Mike Leach wasn't like that, at least from what I saw from the outside of just every second was, just this rod up the rear end, couldn't be a normal dude. If anything, he was his own unique dude. And I just kind of wonder how the people in college football that either knew Coach Leach or that kind of saw how Coach Leach operated, kind of how much of an individual I feel like they lost today.
Incredible. I never met Mike Leach. I never spoke with Mike Leach. I knew him from his reputation and watching his teams play, and I knew him from 1 to 2 minute video bites that you'd see on the internet and things along those lines.
Sure.
First of all, I'd say my condolences to his family. And if you've ever lived in Starkville's a very small community. What a tragedy, what a sad loss for anybody associated with Starkville, Mississippi, and Mississippi State athletics and Mississippi State football. The thing I like about Mike Leach is what you just said. Coaching is what we do, not who we are. And he definitely didn't take himself too seriously. He's a very unique individual. He possessed a law degree from Pepperdine. He taught a class at Washington State. He's a New York Times best-selling author, with a book about Geronimo and a book, somewhat of an autobiography called Swing Your Sword. And if there's something I would say about him from observing sound bites, things along those lines, he swung his own sword. And really, when you think about the game of football as it is today, he was so far ahead of his time with the air raid and recognition and of good young coaches and people along those lines too. His coaching tree is off the charts. Whether it's Dave Aranda, Cliff Kingsbury, Lincoln Riley, Garrett Riley, the people he had on those Texas Tech staffs in the early 2000s, off the charts. And he changed the game with the air raid offense, and a lot of the principles of the pass game that we see today are based on things he was doing 20 years ago. My picture of him is looking at him on the sideline with his play calling sheet, and it's like a little index card. You see some guys in the NFL with those big giant menu type cards, or a defensive coordinator with his big giant block card, and you see him with his little menu card. He apparently only had a handful of plays and wanted to know whether you're in man-to-man coverage, 2-deep zone or 3-deep zone, and let's go. And like I said, my observation in the last 48 hours, I've probably read more about him in the last 48 hours than I had the rest of my life, was that if you met him, you remembered it, and he made an impact on you. He made you feel like you were special, and he made you feel like you were important.
When you would coach against the air raid, what made it so difficult to slow down? And yet, why? We've seen, so many yards and points put up with air raid teams. I'm not sure we've seen a national champion with the air raid. So what makes it so hard to stop, and why has it not won a title yet?
I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why it hasn't won a title, just other teams being better. I think Coach Leach, in and of himself, he was never the have in the Big 12 at Texas Tech. I mean, they were playing against, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas.
Sure, and the one year that he had Michael Crabtree.
That's right.
I mean, Michael
and Graham
Crabtree
Harrell,
was...
and that team, ended up being a top 10 team in the country. At Washington State, he was against all the teams in the Pac-12. And I promise you, in the SEC West, you're going against the best that there is in college football. What made the offense so unique to me was, when you think of the air raid, you're imagining the guy throwing the bombs down the field. But he did such an outstanding job with his quarterbacks and people along those lines that they understood to take what the defense gives them. And they weren't afraid to make the air raid, an extension of the run game to a certain extent. As a matter of fact, there were the two running backs at Mississippi State here this year were the two of the top receivers on the team, and are 4th and 5th in Mississippi State history as far as receiving over the course, career receptions and career receiving yards. So they're as big a part of it as anything. And like I said, I mean, he's always been an outstanding coach of the quarterbacks. Ironically, the last two quarterbacks he had, Gardner Minshew at Washington State, and then Will Rogers at Mississippi State. One's at Washington State, one's at Mississippi State. They went to the same high school, so it's kind of weird.
What do you make of Josh Heupel was recruited to Oklahoma because of the air raid, because of Mike Leach, and now it seems like he kind of runs a little bit of the air raid out there at Tennessee.
Oh, for sure.
How much of that, like those wide splits and everything else, are you surprised that we haven't seen more of that trickle into the NFL?
Oh, yes, in the NFL, I think that's the next big thing. There's always the next big thing, and to me, I think the use of the formations that Coach Heupel gets into are pretty simple. It's just the splits of the receivers are so drastic. They're standing outside the numbers or near the sideline, and people like Kendall Briles and Art Briles have used those type of things for years, and it helps you identify the coverage. It helps you to identify whether it's man-to-man coverage or zone coverage, whether someone's blitzing. And I definitely think now the field dimensions of the NFL and the field dimensions of college are different, so I think that would limit some of the things you're able to do. But I think that's the next big thing in college football. And college football and pro football are probably more aligned, more aligned than they've probably ever been nowadays. And a lot of it has to do with 25 years ago and a guy like Mike Leach.
How tough do you think it is for college football to not have the personality of a leader like Mike Leach?
It's sad. I mean, like I said, I've never met the man, but there's part of me that feels like I know him just by watching 20 to 30 second to 1 minute sound bites and interviews with him on Twitter in the last 2 days. I mean, and for all the coaches who do take themselves too seriously and are talking about X's and O's and discipline and this and that, and I'm not saying he wasn't, I don't know all that stuff, but he was certainly an eccentric personality and someone that the college football world and beyond the college football world that sports in general will miss.
Coach Bob Shoop with us. As always, Coach, great stuff. By the way, I do wonder this. Do you, when you get fired from a job, or like Penn State to Tennessee, choose to move from one job to another, what do you do with all your clothes? Like, do you have, like, separate clothes that are not, I guess in this case, South Florida or Mississippi State or Tennessee or Vanderbilt or Penn State, or do you have all those clothes and still wear around a Penn State jacket, or what do you do?
Combination. I mean, we give them. I've given them to the guys coming in who've taken the job. We've just gotten rid of them. Goodwill, whatnot.
I was just thinking because your sweatshirt's an Adidas sweatshirt, but it doesn't have a logo on it.
I do not have a logo on today. I'm a free agent right now.
There you go. Coach Bob Shoop, as always, with us. Coming up next, football people. Coach Shoop's a football guy. Football people have weighed in on the Titans' recent decision-making. It ain't good. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Stuck at work without a radio?
Wait a minute. Disastrous.
I hate that.
It's got to be there.
That's okay. Download the Game Nashville app or go to thegamenashville.com and listen live. We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
They say a good craftsman never blames their tools, and the best always choose the right one for the job. For the builders and makers of this world, nothing beats knowing you've got what you need to get the project done. Northern Tool is a problem solver's paradise. And with savings of up to 50% off and great new deals dropping every week, we've got the perfect gift for all the solvers on your list. We're made for this. Come see us in store or shop online at northerntool.com.
Need cash for the holidays or to pay off credit cards right now? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. This is great. You can keep your low mortgage rate and still get cash out. That's right. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low rate. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan will come your way, and it only costs you around $300 a month. Use that money to pay off whatever bills you have, credit cards, consolidate other debt, or start a home improvement project. With Loan Pronto, you can access up to 95% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need the appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Do it now before the holidays. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Men, are you asking yourself questions like, why am I gaining fat? Why is my energy or sex drive down and maybe haven't been getting the exercise you need? If you want to get back to the man you used to be, but just don't have that youthful energy, that edge you once had, you very well might have low testosterone. Low T causes all kinds of issues, from a reduced libido, lower drive, and bad sleep patterns to problems with muscle gain, bone density, and more. It may even contribute to erectile dysfunction, and if this sounds like you, it's probably time to get treated for your low T. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've treated thousands of men for low T. We've seen them put on muscle, add to their energy, improve their sex lives, get better sleep, and just feel better. Plus, if you're like most men, you'll see results in only a few weeks. So make an appointment today and experience how testosterone therapy can truly change your life. Your initial appointment is only $99 with results in minutes. Call today, 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra, results vary.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
These are battles, these are grinds. We don't panic, we don't freak out. That's how we're built. 1, 2, 3, 9.
This is your drive to the playoffs update, presented by Coleman Tractor, Tennessee's largest Kubota dealer, on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Tennessee Titans had the day off on Tuesday as they look to turn the page on the loss to Jacksonville. The team has lost 3 games in a row, and with only 4 games remaining in the season, head coach Mike Vrabel talked about the challenge of trying to play their best football down the stretch.
You get to a point now where you're late in the season, guys are beat up. You know, how much can you realistically practice, how many reps you can practice, how many bodies that you have practicing with. So I hope that it's a combination of, taking the meetings, and being able to walk through, taking the walk-through corrections and using the ones that we have in speed and practice and hitting them. There was, a lot of things that showed up in the game that, we fixed throughout the week. And then, unfortunately, there was things that we didn't, and we weren't able to hit it or use it to our advantage.
The team announced on Monday they released outside linebacker Ola Adeni and linebacker Joe Schobert. On Tuesday, they announced the signing of 3 players to the practice squad: quarterback Kevin Hogan, outside linebacker Zach McLeod, and offensive lineman Jordan Roos. Next up for the Titans will be a trip to L.A. to take on the 7-6 Chargers, with kickoff set for 3:25 on Sunday. This report is presented by Coleman Tractor. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry, live from Bridgestone Arena. Preds tonight taking on Connor McDavid in the Edmonton Oilers. So Mike Sando has a piece up at The Athletic, and the headline is depressing. The headline says, Titans could become Texans if they're not careful. Sando talks to former GMs and league executives and all these anonymous people off the record who say what happened with the Titans last week is a freaking mess. And yet every time I bring this up, I feel like I'm Debbie Downer. I feel like all the people, all the calls are the same, all the texts are the same. Amy showed bold leadership to make the decision that she made last week. Don't you want bold leadership, Jared?
Well, there's a difference between bold leadership and bad decisions.
I mean, I get, like, is it bold if I walk into the casino and say, put all my money on Vanderbilt this week to beat, I don't even know who they're playing in basketball, but they lost to Grambling State on Friday. So
they did.
Whomever, I don't, I'll put all my life savings on Vandy. Bold.
Stupid.
Okay. So that the football people are saying that what the Titans did is stupid. I've been saying for a week now what the Titans did. For I wouldn't say a whole week, because the first part of the week we were trying to figure out, why did they actually do what they did? And this really has nothing to do with John Robinson.
No.
It just has to do with the decision-making that led to the firing of the general manager on a Tuesday before they were getting ready to play Jacksonville in a game with huge implications, and the firestorm that they created, and the fact that they didn't do anything to put the fire out, considering that they didn't talk about it on Tuesday. The coach had to talk about it on Wednesday. People don't even know if they can believe the coach. And, I mean, it's just, to me, I don't even know what to say about it. And the headline, again, Titans could become the Texans if they're not careful. Mike Sando writes in here that Mike Vrabel was indeed convincing in explaining why he was out of the loop with the franchise-altering decision. Whatever the case, the Titans might look back on this period as the moment when a recently successful franchise became a more volatile one. And it basically is a long way of talking to people inside the league that say, okay, one of two things happen. Either Mike Vrabel ran a power play on John Robinson, which is bad, or the owner's crazy.
I don't like either of those scenarios.
Would you agree that that is the gist of?
The article is, it is one of two, areas of belief. As either Amy Adams Strunk made a really rash and quick decision, or Mike Vrabel pushed John Robinson out.
Okay.
That is the general consensus from the football people, at least.
And regardless of what it is, the football people are all saying, whatever ends up coming of this, I'd be careful, including a former GM who said, quote, be careful what you wish for. Don't go giving your head coach carte blanche, especially when they are a strong-minded guy. Now, I've been saying, banging the drum that do not make Mike Vrabel the general manager. Like, I don't want Mike Vrabel the general manager. I don't want Mike Vrabel in charge of the organization.
Haven't we learned that lesson?
We?
Just general football observers. Haven't we learned that lesson?
Well, they would argue that Andy Reid has final say in Kansas City, and that works out fine for them. And Bill Belichick has final say in New England, and that's worked out fine for them.
How is that working out without Tom Brady, without an elite quarterback?
I would agree.
I'd like to see Andy Reid without Patrick Mahomes and see how good Andy Reid does.
Well, Andy Reid was really good without.
I know. I know.
Andy Reid's got, but we're talking about, do you think that Mike Vrabel's Andy Reid?
No.
That's the thing. So, but it continues on and on and on. One executive currently in the league says there's they are probably going to hire some first-time guy the coach approves of, because that's just the way these things go. So getting some, lowly schmuck out there that is, a first-time guy that's going to be a yes man for Vrabel, just like Mike Reinfeldt when he was here and he was the yes man to Jeff Fisher. Well, I don't want that. And that's what they're saying is going to happen. And what they are trying to tell all of us is the Titans are much closer to the Texans than people want to believe. In fact, not only that, the reason for the, go Amy, fire him, the thing with those people is that the roster is bad. Well, if the roster is bad and then you run your team like the Texans, you're going to be the Texans. I am so scared to death of where this is headed. And yet, I see that, these football people, these executives, the same people that told us, hey, Caleb Farley's back. We looked at his medicals, and they were terrible. And we complained about that. The same people that told us that 2 years ago are telling us right now, this is about to become an unmitigated disaster. And here I am. I feel like I'm the only person in the city that believes this. I feel like I'm the only person in the city that hears the Titans might become the Houston Texans and then sees football people, not the Jared Stillmans, not, the In the Titans We Trust Section 319, not those guys, but league executives saying, whoa, 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 whoa. And it scares me. It makes me, I cannot tell you how adamantly I feel that the Titans are headed down the tubes. That if I had to bet on it, the old saying, I'm rooting for you, but I'm betting against you?
Uh-huh.
If I had to bet on it, I would say that in 2 years, everybody around here, there's going to be a giant cloud over the organization. Because the only way that they get themselves out of this is if they just find the best football guy out there and they hire him to be GM, and he's the best GM in the league, and he can get along with Vrabel. And I don't know how many people are out there that don't have a track record of success as a GM that could walk in here and be able to make good picks and be able to get Vrabel to answer to him. I just don't know how many of those people exist.
Well, I just overall tend to believe that when you fire a general manager and you keep a coach, same thing in college, and you fire an AD and keep a coach, it's really difficult to kind of force that marriage. Normally, you bring in an AD, you bring in a GM, they want to bring in their guys. So I'm not even just talking about the Titans specifically, but overall, my general, belief is that you cannot fire from the top and then rehire at the top and expect everyone underneath to follow suit. It just doesn't work. It's an awkward dynamic there.
And the football people are telling you this in this Mike Sando article, a former league executive talking about Vrabel. You can easily make the case Vrabel hasn't coached long enough to learn the intricacies of personnel, player acquisition, trade, and free agent markets, not to mention the salary cap and all the other things GMs do that go way beyond the draft. And last week, I was saying that all last week. Do not make him the GM. He is not trained to be the GM. He's never done personnel in his life. And you're going to put him in charge of a team. That doesn't make a lot of sense. A longtime executive quoted in here, a current coach that's quoted in here, talking about John Robinson, Mike Vrabel says, she dropped the hammer on a guy who by all accounts is doing no better or worse than any of the other guys who have been in the league as long as he has. What is her angle? What is she not happy with? Where does she see this going? If you take the perspective of Vrabel is orchestrating it, then that's the answer. Mm-hmm. The coach is saying then Vrabel's running a power
struggle.
Play, that's what it is.
Vrabel wins.
And if it's a power struggle and Vrabel wins, we're all screwed. I think we can agree with that, right?
I don't like the way that the franchise would go.
Okay. The coach then continues and says, but if you take it from the perspective of the owner is not happy and trying to do something bigger, it's different. Theoretically, even Vrabel could be on the outs if this person is unhappy. So, it's a long range of what the hell's going on with this organization. And every road, it feels like, is leading the Titans down the path of what Cleveland does, what the Texans do. And I don't know if you guys have enjoyed the last 6 years of either being in the playoffs or playing that last Sunday night football game against the Colts in order to get in the playoffs, or at least having your season matter around Christmas every single year for the last half decade. But I'm not ready to go back to the Mike Munchak and Ken Whisenhunt days where you were Cleveland, where you were the Texans, where you were Washington, where you were the Jets, where you were these franchises that we laugh at. I am not ready to go back to that. And the foreshadowing from everybody who doesn't have their skin in the game is, yeah, looks like you're headed back to that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And it depresses me. It depresses me, the amount of people that are just like, oh, no, Jared Amy, she knows what she's doing. Based off of what? Based off of what? What tells you that she knows what she's doing on this? All the football people are saying she doesn't know. But the text line wants to tell me that she knows. That's frustrating. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones on this. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. Plus, speaking of football people, they still don't believe some of the things that we've been told. We'll get to that coming up next here on the program. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000. That's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just sign up with the promo code JGM. FanDuel has all of your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props, and you can combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. With live betting, you'll get updated odds on games that have already started, and you'll get paid your winnings quickly. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So sign up today with the promo code JGM and get your no-sweat first bet. That's promo code JGM and make every moment more this season with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
Every Wednesday at 2:45.
Sanders for the touchdown, 48 yards.
Former NFL wide receiver Chris Sanders joins Stillman and Company to give his thoughts on all things Titans and NFL. Fueled by Parman Energy, now hiring fuel drivers. Apply now at ParmanEnergy.com on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormonal deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve your quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game in a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Have some family or friends in town for the holidays? Show them a good time. Great scratch food and even better scenic views at Twin Peaks. With plenty of shareable things on the menu, this is your place for holiday gatherings. Contact your favorite location for more info today.
Hey Nashville, TJ Anderson here. With real estate listings, you have to read between the lines. Like waterfront property, more like a mosquito farm. Pride of ownership, they're really proud of the DIY job they did. Seller says sell? Really? I thought they just put it on the market for fun. My team at TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty is ready to help both home buyers and sellers decode the market. Oh, and if it says don't let this one pass you by, it's probably on wheels. Google TJ Anderson Homes, read our reviews, and see why we are referred for a reason. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, 615-432-2919.
Need assistance with door and window projects? The Home Depot can help. From inspiration and materials to ordering and installation, our free Millwork virtual apron service can get you moving and doing. Plus, we speak Spanish too. Our associates can help you tackle complex jobs without you leaving the job site, saving you time and money. Call us at 1-833-HD-APRON or visit homedepot.com/MVA. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Honestly, I had made the decision. It was time to move forward. There was no reason to go 6, 7, 8 weeks, however long we remain in the season. It was not fair to John. It was not fair to the team. It just seemed the right thing. It gives us plenty of opportunity now to identify future candidates that we're going to interview, to get to know watch the internal candidates. It's, I'm just not that person that's going to sit on a decision like that.
I mean, I love how she says to the AP, yeah, I just didn't see a reason in not doing it. I was like...
Other than the impact on the team.
I mean, again...
But I do appreciate the spin that Amy tried to put on it of, I'm trying to be honorable. Of why would I put John Robinson through 6 weeks of him not knowing what his inevitable fate was?
If you ran a biology department and you were going to fire a professor at the end of the year because you didn't think they were a very good professor, would you let them finish out the semester, or would you fire the teacher right then and there?
Probably just let him finish out the semester.
Okay, what if you caught him with child porn?
Well, you gone.
So that's that's where, again, if there was misconduct involved, okay, but there's not any inclination that that's what it was. Though Mike Lombardi, former general manager, 2 stints with Belichick, I don't think he and John had any time that overlapped in New England. But they're still part of that brotherhood. And I could be wrong. They could have overlapped. He was on Mad Dog Russo's channel, Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM on Friday, and he is not buying that this was not about the plane in Green Bay.
I think for Tennessee, look, they're not a talented team. They fired their general manager this week. If you go through
why'd
the draft,
they do that? Why'd they do that?
I would think, to me, this is more about the plane ride home from Green Bay after they won that game. There's a rule that you're not allowed to have alcoholic beverages on the plane, okay? And what happened, I think, ultimately, Todd Dowling got a DUI on his way home. That's fact. So something happened on that airplane. And the guy who's in charge of controlling those things, who's put in charge by the ownership group, is the general manager. So
well, why did you wait? Why did you wait 2 weeks and not fire right on the spot, if that's the case?
Well, I think they did investigation. I think the league's been investigating it too. I think the league went into it. Now, we'll hear something. It's the same thing like when we had this conversation about Dan Snyder, and I said that Goodell's working behind the scenes to get this sold because we know it's going to be bad. We find out yesterday how bad it is. And so we know he's going to sell the team now. So there's things that happen behind the scenes that don't always necessarily come right out. If he was going to get fired for bad drafts, which he's had a lot of bad drafts, he would have been fired. He would have been fired in the offseason. But they gave him a contract extension in the offseason. So something triggered the firing.
The football people, they're not buying the stuff that people around here are 100% believing. Then the power struggle with Vrabel. Again, Lombardi, New England guy, overlaps with Belichick. I don't think that he overlapped with Vrabel. I think it was Pioli who was there when Vrabel was there. So I don't think his time overlaps with Vrabel either. But here's what Lombardi said about the power struggle with Vrabel.
It's not the relationship with Vrabel. They get along fairly well?
No, I think that is part of the problem, too. That's part B of the equation. I mean, when Vrabel goes and tells ESPN that he's not trading A.J. Brown, and then 2 days later they trade him, how do you think that makes the coach feel? There's no alignment, It would be like, would you ever do that to your coach? Of course you wouldn't. But obviously he made that decision. He had the authority, and I don't think Vrabel was ever going to get over that.
So everything that we're being told, Lombardi says is not, Lombardi says, the plane from Green Bay is part of the equation, says he and Vrabel didn't get along, which we were told, the opposite, right?
Right.
And
like
Joe
it was
Rexrode,
nothing. It was just to a time.
Joe thinks we're like QAnon theorists because we talk about that Green Bay plane, but everybody brings it up. So phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jim is in Franklin. He's up next. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Jim?
Yeah, hey, Jared. I was always touched by your relationship with Floyd, which was so tender and genuine. And if you could channel him right now, what would he say? You're in a great position to speak to this. What would he say about the J-Rob firing? And I'll hang up and listen.
I think the number one thing he would say, thank you for your call, Jim. I think the number one thing he would say is, don't you dare put words in my mouth. That's the first thing I think he would say. Ian, would you agree with that?
Probably pretty fair.
So for me to tell you what I think Floyd would have said would have pissed Floyd off. Now, that being said, this is never shy to do that every now and then. I think Floyd would be really upset. I mean, I think he wouldn't say it on the air, I don't think. I don't think he'd even say it to me. But I think he'd be really upset. I think he'd be really upset about what Amy did, when she did it, the fact that he's been winning, I think he'd have a hard time with. But I think a lot of the mistakes that John Robinson made along the way, I think Floyd would have also had a really hard time with. And I've always joked that like he wasn't racist or sexist, but he wasn't injurist. And if you were injured, he didn't like you. And so for the Titans to trade a second-round pick and take on the money for Julio Jones, I think he'd be really mad about that. And the drafting of Caleb Farley with a back injury. I mean, Ian, I don't think it's wrong to put – I don't think I'm putting words in his mouth to say that he would not have drafted Caleb Farley and would not have been on board with drafting Caleb Farley.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably pretty accurate.
So I think he'd be upset with John for some of the decisions that he made as a general manager. I think ultimately he would look at John's record and say, what are you doing? And John was his guy. But, I mean, I also think he would look at what Amy did and he would be disappointed about how that went down and when it went down. Both that they did it and when they did it, I think would bother him. And then I think the final piece to this is I don't think he'd say a word about it. I don't think he'd say a word about it in defense of John. I don't think he'd say a word of it, attacking Amy's decision. I don't think you would have heard anything out of him because, I mean, he's in the team's Hall of Fame. And he takes the relationship with the team. He took the relationship with the team very seriously. And so I think he would have stayed really out of it, but I think he would have been pretty upset all around. Ed is up next on the quarterback. Thank you for calling. What you got for me, Eddie?
Hey, Jared, I'm so sick. Look, John Robinson was arrogant. He was pompous. And more than anything else, he refused to accept the idea that you have to change. Nick Saban has changed. He look. Case in point.
How did John Robinson not change, Ed?
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give it to you right now. Listen here.
Give it to me.
Listen, Bill Belichick. Since Tom Brady left, Bill Belichick is 36-38. While Tom Brady was there, 75% of their games they won. Okay? Now, John Robinson thinks you can win with average players, including the quarterback play. You cannot do it in the NFL. Get me a quarterback, okay? I don't care who the GM is, and I don't really care who the coach is. Andy Reid had Donovan McNabb in Philadelphia for 10 years. He won. Donovan McNabb was an average quarterback. He leaves, they fire Andy Reid. He gets Mahomes. He will win as long as Mahomes is in Kansas City. Get me a quarterback in Nashville, and we will win for the next 20 years. I don't care who the GM is.
How are you gonna get me a quarterback?
That's his job. That is his job.
Okay. I mean, I hear you, Ed. Thank you for your call. I mean, I would love for the Titans to be able to acquire Joe Burrow. I mean, if you told me that there was a GM out there that could convince the Cincinnati Bengals to trade Joe Burrow to the Tennessee Titans, I'd help John. I'd call TriStar Moving Up right now, and I'd send those vans over to John's house. I would. If you were telling me that you could get Joe Burrow to be the next quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Here's the problem. That's not how this works. The Titans win too many games, and you all can't stand losing because you guys throw a fit about the general manager that won a bunch of games but didn't win enough of the games. So I know you guys can't stand losing. I know you guys can't stand losing in hopes that the year that you lose, there will be a Joe Burrow or a Peyton Manning or a John Elway at the top of the draft and not a Kenny Pickett at the top of the draft. Like, I know how you all work. So you're going to sit there and tell me of like, hey, they got to find the quarterback. They got to – listen, I said go all in for Russell Wilson. I did. Did I not?
Yeah, I mean, and if the Titans would have done that, then John Robinson probably did deserve to lose his job.
Okay.
But there are two ways to acquire elite quarterbacks. The quarterback that caller wants. You can either be bad enough to draft one and hope that quarterback works out, a la Joe Burrow. A lot of them don't, a la Kyler Murray. Or you can trade a bunch of picks to get one. See how that worked out for Denver. And if the Titans did decide to do that, I can already hear so many people bitching and moaning about, but we don't have a right tackle.
Yep.
What about the wide receiver needs?
Yep.
What about all of the other needs in this team? What are they doing throwing away 3 first-round picks? Who's this quarterback going to throw to? It's a double-edged sword.
Are you familiar with the name Cordy Glenn?
No.
So Cordy Glenn was the left tackle of the Buffalo Bills. He was a Pro Bowl left tackle. And before the 2018 draft, the Buffalo Bills, who had made the playoffs the year before, traded Cordy Glenn to the Bengals with their first-round pick to move up to get the Bengals' first-round pick, which was still in the middle of the first round. It wasn't at the top of the first round. And so they traded their Pro Bowl left tackle in order to move up in the first round, which then they later had to move up again in the first round in order to draft Josh Allen. If Josh Allen doesn't become Josh Allen, they all get fired.
Yes.
This is a hard job now. Like, I want people to understand that. Like, and there are 5 quarterbacks. I've realized this about quarterback play. There are 5 quarterbacks in the world that elevate your team. Everybody else needs the infrastructure of good players around them, good coaching, and, they need like a solid organization.
Baker Mayfield.
When Tannehill, it's not just Baker. It's
I
Derek
was one
Carr.
of them.
It's Matthew Stafford. It's
Jalen Hurts.
It's Jalen Hurts.
Tua
It's Kirk
Tagovailoa.
Cousins. It's all of them. It's all of them except the guys who suck. That they need that infrastructure. And when Ryan Tannehill had that infrastructure, you were really good offensively. And he was really good. He was Joe Montana level good. So, I get it. I want a quarterback too, caller. But you tell me how to get it, or you tell me if there's a guy out there that can identify how they're going to find that guy, and then I'll be on board with it. But right now, the Titans have probably a top 12 quarterback, top 15 quarterback in the league. And I've seen a lot of worse quarterbacks around here. Trevor Maddich will join us next, ESPN college football analyst. Trevor will join us on the program here on Stillman & Company, live from Bridgestone Arena. Ed Lee's Barbecue. I love my friends at Ed Lee's Barbecue. If you haven't figured out who is catering your holiday party, you need to go ahead and talk to my friends at Edley's. Edley's has been voted Nashville's best barbecue 4 years in a row. Edley's Barbecue is a winning pick. Pickup, delivery, full-service catering, you name it, they've got it. They've got full bar packages and bartending services. Perfect for small gatherings, corporate meetings, box lunches, team celebrations, special occasions like a wedding, a rehearsal dinner, or a holiday party. That's right. Let Edley's Barbecue take care of all of that. My dad had his 70th birthday a couple years ago, and when we did, we catered with Edley's, and boy, was the food fantastic. And, of course, they got their packages as well for all of that. Every special occasion you can think of, Edley's can take care of it. Call your neighborhood Edley's or order online at edleysbbq.com. Once again, voted Nashville's best barbecue 4 years in a row. It's Edley's Barbecue. Order online at edleysbbq.com.
Want a chance to win tickets to an upcoming Preds game?
Yes.
Tune in to Robbie and Rexroad every weekday Preds game day at 8:45 for Preds Pick to Click. Guess a goal scorer and win.
I'll take Roman Yost.
Matt Duchesne. Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are referred so often. And by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Preds Pick to Click.
We are 102.5 and 106.3. The Game.
Hal Gill here for my friends at Dunkin'. Everyone celebrates the holidays in their own special way, but you go twice as hard as everyone else. So does Dunkin', which is why they've created 2 espresso-rich holiday signature lattes. The minty, cocoa-dusted peppermint mocha and creamy cinnamon sugary toasted white chocolate lattes are handcrafted with bold espresso and topped with whipped cream to help you do the most this year. So swing by the newly remodeled Dunkin' on Bradley Parkway in Nashville or the new Dunkin' in Mount Juliet and grab one today on the double.
If you own a house, you've got a huge asset, and everyone's looking at it. With Wall Street investors buying up homes in Nashville and renting them out like never before, you have to wonder, what do they see in your big asset that you don't? The truth is, if you sell your home instead of renting it, you can kiss your asset goodbye. Especially with today's higher interest rates, the best way to save your asset is to rent it out instead. Go to renterswarehouse.com to book your free home rental price analysis today. Or call 615-398-9550. Renters Warehouse. You can't buy happiness, but you can rent it.
Achieve hero status this year. The woman in your life will love this unique and thoughtful gift. Always in style, always fits, always appreciated. Choose your budget, and whether you spend a little or go lavish, she can choose from 10 different services, all under one roof at a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Gift cards can be printed directly from the website, or they can be beautifully wrapped for a stunning presentation and even paired with other gifts like robes, candles, and all sorts of fun finds from the Gift Boutique. Learn more about this at amomentspeace.com/Christmas.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
The Sports Talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
Have they truly been tested yet?
I really want this to be a good game. Michelle and Junie, every Saturday morning at 9. Presented by Superbook Sports and the Nashville Jam Company.
I think Junie and I are going to go hit breakfast/brunch there after the show.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt football head coach Clark Lee. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Preds fans, want to win tickets in the lower bowl, section 102? Just text the keyword Superbook, all one word, to the Game text line at 615-737-1025, and you will be entered to win. And you can win with 102.5 The Game and Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports, voted the #1 sportsbook app in Vegas. Download their app today. Trevor Maddich joins us, ESPN college football analyst, presented by Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports, and Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. A sad day in college football today, Trev. The passing, unexpectedly, of head coach Mike Leach at Mississippi State. Of course, the innovator of the air raid offense, he and Hal Mummy. And, of course, the success he had at Washington State, Texas Tech, and recently with Mississippi State. Trev, I didn't know Mike Leach, and I know that you did. So just what are some of your thoughts today when you think back to Coach Leach, who he was and what he meant to college football?
I've never known anybody like him, not just in football, but really anywhere. Jared, he was just such an innovator, but also such a hard-nosed, old-school, hardcore football coach. And I think a lot of people don't realize that about him on the field because they see him as, the air raid and spread the ball out, and sometimes they don't run it but several times a game, and so he's a finesse coach. Well, no, he's not. The dude is hardcore. I've seen him on the practice field a number of times at Washington State, Texas Tech, and at Mississippi State. And I tell you, he would fit right in from a standpoint of just the foundation of how he approaches the game with the great coaches of the 60s and the 70s. And then he's got the innovation. And part of that innovation was because he never was encumbered with the knowledge of how things have always been done or how they should be done. I mean, I don't think he played football on any level, as far as I know. He may have played in high school. He played rugby at BYU. He was a lawyer and decided he wanted to coach football. And so he figured, okay, well, starting from scratch, what's the best way to do this offense thing? And it was opposite of what everybody was doing at the time, which was wishbone and triple option and 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And you had the fun and gun going on in Miami and Florida and stuff like that. But really, football was still more of an old school kind of game, and he just flipped everything around at Oklahoma when he was the offensive coordinator there under Bob Stoops, and everybody picked it up. I mean, high school, college, NFL. I mean, there's very few people that you could really point to as having a greater influence as to how the game is approached, just from a standpoint of on the field and offensive schemes, than what Mike Leach has done. And then on top of that is away from the game. He was so curious about everything. If you wanted to find out something from him about insurgency tactics in Laos and Cambodia in the 60s and the 70s, he knew it. And if he didn't know it and he found it interesting, he'd be curious and he'd go learn it. And he understood history. He understood so many things, and that's one of the reasons that there were so many fun interview moments with him, because he is legitimately, or was legitimately, curious about so many things in life, to the point that he would go learn about them. because they were fascinating to him. Then you put all that together with his football persona, and you had a presence that is unlike any other that I've ever been around.
You know, Trev, I think back to the fact that he's only been in the SEC for a couple of years, and just his personality alone, I look back at what he brought to the league, and I think to myself, this is a devastating loss, not just because of the personality, not just because of the fact that he made Mississippi State a tough out, whether it was in Alabama or a good LSU or somebody like that. If they were playing Mississippi State, it was going to be a tough out with him coaching with the air raid. But just the fact that the SEC has a certain way that a lot of the coaches are and a certain way a lot of the programs are, and Mike Leach was none of that. And I thought he was a great addition to the Southeastern Conference to have him in it. And I think he's really going to be missed in this league for what he's brought the last couple of years, Trev.
Well, styles make fights, right, Jared? And his style of offense was just so different from what you saw for the most part in the SEC. Now, you've got Josh Heupel at Tennessee, which is doing a very similar kind of an offense. I mean, Josh Heupel was his quarterback in 1999 at Oklahoma, for goodness sake. And so, that's sort of the start of that tree. And Lane Kiffin also very innovative. And so it's not like Mike Leach is the only innovative guy in the SEC, but the way that he went about it was completely unique. And it forced other teams to have to deal with things defensively that they just didn't want to have to deal with. I mean, you go back to the way the SEC kind of is, right? And how it got to this point from a coaching standpoint, the styles of coaches, even though the likes of Nick Saban expanded their horizons when it came to what offenses should look like in this league, they still kind of were the same kind of guy, right? Well, Mike Leach was a different kind of guy. He was his own breed of cat. He didn't care which way the wind was blowing. He didn't care how anybody else did anything at all. He wasn't disrespectful of others, but he was going to do it his way, and that's it. He'll listen to you. He'll learn from you, but then he'll do it the way he thinks is best. And I think that is the refreshing breath of fresh air that he really brought to it more than any other single thing, because once again, he never was encumbered by the concept of how coaches should look and do and be and sound. And so he just did it his own way. And in a lot of ways, that opened the door for so many coaches to come in and be creative outside of the box that people expect them to be in. I mean, when you look at the SEC, Urban Meyer kind of broke things open with crazy offenses, I think you could say, when he brought the zone read offense from Utah to Florida. Everybody thought it wouldn't work because you get your quarterback smashed. And he just proved that, it'll work. It'll work just fine. He won a couple of national championships with that offense, and then all of a sudden everybody's running it in the NFL as well for the most part. And then you've got Mike Leach coming in with with the air raid and his style of doing things. And part of his style is that he didn't, people think he doesn't like to run the ball. Well, to Leach, the concept of balance is not you have an even balance between run plays and pass plays in a game. No, he didn't care about that. To him, balance was balance, of your playmakers all getting touches. And as long as your playmakers are getting touches, he doesn't care if you throw it to him, hand it to him, toss it to him, doesn't matter. But it really freaked people out when you play Mike Leach and you only run the ball 7 times, and he would beat you in the SEC doing that. Well, it's not because he was finesse. He wasn't. He was old school, hardcore. His running backs, though, would get their touches, just not the way you gave your running backs the ball.
Trevor Matich is our guest. Trevor, what were your experiences like with Coach Leach, and if there's anything that sticks out to you? Because, again, I never met him, but the one thing that every single person who interacted with Mike Leach is remembering today feels like his uniqueness. What was that like for you?
It was wonderful. I mean, I love history too. I love a lot of the things that he loves for similar reasons. And so we had some conversations about history, about World War II, about mistakes made by the Allies at the beginning of World War I that led to the spark of that conflict, and how to avoid that in today's world, and things like that. These are the kinds of things that he could talk about at length, and he's fascinating about it. But what really stood out, though, was how different he was on the practice field than I expected him to be. I mean, the first time I really saw him on the practice field was at Washington State. And it was spring ball. They started practice, went through stretch, all individual stuff, and guys were a little loose. They weren't as dialed in mentally as he wanted them to be, and they weren't responding to him. And so he said, all right, bring it up. Stretch again. And he started practice all over again about 40 minutes into it. And I'll tell you what, I've had that happen once in my life. And that is not something that you want as a player. I mean, he was going to insist that everybody do things the right way, or they were going to do them again until they got it right. That's a Nick Saban kind of attitude. But that's his attitude. It's just very, very old school. It was the same kind of thing when I saw them do off-season workouts, midnight conditioning at Mississippi State, right? The guys were out there working like crazy, and if you didn't know who Mike Leach was, and you thought he was a Nick Saban disciple when it came time to focus guys in on doing the drills and doing the work and focusing on them in the right way and expecting nothing but excellence, you would have said, yeah, that's a Nick Saban guy. But no, it was Mike Leach. It was the same attitude, the same philosophy. He just got two things in a completely different way, but he got to the same place.
Trevor Matich is our guest, ESPN college football analyst. Again, the coach of Mississippi State, Mike Leach, passing away today. Too young at the age of 61 years old. I mean, just tragic to hear that news coming out. Trevor is with us. Hey, Preds fans, hang out before the Preds game at the Superbook Lounge and Landshark Bar and Grill, Margaritaville on Broadway with 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Place your bets with Superbook and enjoy great food and drink specials, plus enter for a chance to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game.
Every Wednesday at noon.
No matter the down and distance and no matter the score, they're going to give him the football.
Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton joins Chase, Willie, and D-Mace to talk all things Titans and NFL.
I hope that they're not throwing flags simply because the league wants to see more of them.
He's got opinions and insights on the two-tone blue.
They are not as good at wide receiver and the playmaking department.
Catch Hutton every Wednesday at noon. Presented by Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars and by Edley's Barbecue on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus. Our forecast today starting off cold with temperatures in the 30s, but the afternoon pushing toward the upper 50s. A light sprinkles possible, but heavier rain moves in overnight tonight and lasts on and off throughout your Wednesday.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
What's up, everyone? It's me, Michelle Knezovic, and I want to know if you can beat Vegas this football season. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, just the best team of odds makers in the business behind the counter at Superbook in Las Vegas. Listen, I like the Tennessee Titans plus 305 to win the division. I still think that they have a chance to take the AFC South. Plus, Superbook features some of the best odds boosts and promos bets anywhere. To download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com. Start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
College football season is here finally. It's me, Caroline Fenton, and you already know that I am pumped up for college football season. And Southeastern Carolines, you know that 312 Pizza Company is my favorite place in town. 312 Pizza Company is a family-owned restaurant located in the heart of Germantown, serving up authentic Chicago-style eats right here in Music City. You can catch every down of the college football season at 312 Pizza Company. From week 1 of the national championship, 312 Pizza Company is your home for college football season.
OrderGreen.com. You know them by now. They're my only choice for high-quality THC and CBD products, and they're delivered right to my doorstep. Hey, folks, Joe Rexrode here. Yes, you heard that right. OrderGreen.com will send cannabis products right to you with discreet same-day shipping. OrderGreen.com has been great for me. Just what I need during this busy time of year. Takes the edge off physically, mentally. Terrific products, and if you use promo code Joe20, you're going to get 20% off your first purchase at OrderGreen.com. Do you have a subscription to OrderGreen.com? It'd be a lot cooler if you did. You won't be able to tell if you're in Colorado or Tennessee. Trust me, that's OrderGreen.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I'm asking about Prevnar 20 because there's a chance pneumococcal pneumonia could put me in the hospital.
Age 65 or older, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask
Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I want to be able to keep my plans.
So I'm asking my doctor about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
Chase McCade.
You get a little fired up for that. Pads start popping.
Willie Donick.
And you're just thinking, this guy's unbelievable.
And Derek Mason.
Now I got to run a little bit faster so I don't get hit.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company. Trevor Maddich is with us, ESPN college football analyst, presented by Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports, and Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Win experience matters. Hey, be sure to play silly underdog picks, by the way. Play now at theGameNashville.com or the 102.5 The Game app. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. And Superbook Sports voted the #1 sports book in Vegas. Download their app today. Trev, I want to start with this. The Heisman Trophy. I have a bone to pick with you on the Heisman Trophy. I did not think, one, that Caleb Williams, when I think of Heisman Trophy, I do not think of the season that Caleb Williams had at USC. I'm sorry, but 99% of us did not watch any of the games he played until the Pac-12 championship game. And even though he got hurt in that game, he stunk, they got blown out. Secondly, the voters, who is voting on this award that is not voting for Hendon Hooker and the season that he had, or Blake Corum and the season that he had, but they're voting for Stetson Bennett? I mean, I was on Sirius XM during the Heisman Trophy show on Saturday, and I was like, nobody in America even cared about this year's Heisman Trophy, but what a disgrace. Your thoughts on the Heisman Trophy?
Well, first of all, there are about 900 Heisman voters, and I respect most of them. I think some of them probably were awarded their vote in a divorce by a judge. And so I wonder what they're thinking. I think when you look at Hendon Hooker, I get the impression that he had his votes diluted by Bryce Young and then, of course, Stetson Bennett. And what they do to separate who goes to New York and who doesn't is look at where it's close. They take the top three, and then is 3 pretty close to 4, and is 4 pretty close to 5. But then if there's a big gap between 5 and 6, 6 doesn't get to go. And I don't know what those exact numbers are, but I think Hendon Hooker was number 5. And so I kind of think that votes for him must have gotten split in the southeastern region by the voters there because there were some other players that also had really, really good years, and that's why he wasn't in New York, because he certainly should have been.
What do you make about Blake Corum not getting the invite? 1,400 rushing yards, carrying Michigan. I know he didn't play in the Ohio State game much, but I thought that he was the leader of that Michigan team. I know he got hurt, but Caleb Williams got hurt in the Pac-12 championship game, and he still won his award. So I thought it was ridiculous that Blake Corum wasn't there, Trevor.
I agree. Corum did so many things that didn't show up in the box score. He was such a phenomenal blocker. I mean, there was a play where the offensive line split and picked up 2 blitzing linebackers and left the nose guard to rush unimpeded to the quarterback on a 3rd down. Blake Corum was supposed to block one of those linebackers. He flew up and didn't go down low and cut down that big nose guard barreling at the quarterback. He stuck his face mask right in the guy's sternum and stopped him cold. Quarterback completes the ball, extends the drive, right? The kinds of things that just don't show up. But at the same time, I think what may have hurt him more than his injury was that Donovan Edwards had those 2 big long runs against Ohio State when he was out injured. And I think some people were thinking, well, gee, if Edwards can do it, then maybe we won't. You know, it's like the injury. You mentioned the injury to Caleb Williams, the USC quarterback. See, I thought that when they announced the Final Four that Caleb Williams should have won it, and he did. And it's because he did more with less than any of the other finalists. And his ability to run around really elevated that team and carried that team. And it wasn't just to run when things broke down and gain yards on the ground. It was running around when things broke down, looking to throw the ball if he possibly could before he crossed the line of scrimmage. And that's one of the reasons their offense was so good. It's one of the reasons that they made the Pac-12 championship game. And it's one of the reasons I think that was showcased in the Pac-12 championship game for those who watched him play the rest of the season. When he got hurt, they were up 17-3 early in that game, and then he popped his hamstring. Then he was not able to run around and extend plays that he had to do because his offensive line wasn't very good. And so Utah would pressure him a lot and sack him a lot after he got hurt, whereas ordinarily they would pressure him, he'd make somebody miss, and he'd go out and make a big play anyway a lot. And when he was no longer able to do that, you saw how their team completely broke down. And so I thought that it was good that Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy. The others had Heisman winning campaigns. Stetson Bennett, to me, had a Heisman winning season. But I thought Caleb had just one notch above the rest of them because of what he had to work with around him.
Trevor Matich is with us. Trevor, which team in the coaching carousel season that we've had, which team do you think hit it out of the park with a new coaching hire? What team are you most optimistic for with the new coaching market going the way it is?
You know, the one that hit it out of the park was Colorado with Deion Sanders. Came over from Jackson State. I don't know that that's the best place for Deion, but Deion was certainly the best coach for Colorado because they have been an afterthought forever. And they haven't been able to get a whole lot going with donations with NIL. Well, what better way to shake loose NIL money out of the pockets of businessmen that are in that area? There's a lot of money in the Boulder, Denver, Colorado area than to promise quality time with Coach Prime if you'll step up and get the collective going. When it comes to recruiting, he is the guy that showed at Jackson State that he can not only bring in top recruits, but he can develop them, not just on the field as players, but also off the field, because he has a high expectation, an old school high expectation of how his players should behave off the field, the respect that they should show to women, to authority figures, etc. And I think parents will really appreciate that about entrusting their sons to Deion Sanders. So I thought that all the things he brings in to bring some star power and relevance that will have tangible effects in terms of NIL and recruiting, I thought Colorado was the one that really hit it out of the park.
Which team do you look at a coaching hire and you say, you know what, I'm not sure that fits exactly what they're looking for?
Oh, you know, I'm going to have to look at him for that. Let me.
Can I throw one out there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Satterfield to Cincinnati. I think Scott Satterfield is a mid-major coach. I think he's average. At Louisville, I was happy when I heard that he was going to Cincinnati. And I look at the coach they did have, Luke Fickell. I'm like, that was a great coach. And now I think they've got an average coach. What do you think?
Well, he was a great coach at Appalachian State, wasn't he?
You're just proving my point that he's a mid-major coach.
Well, maybe so. But, you know, I thought there were, I don't want to say holes. I want to say that I expected him to elevate Louisville more than he did. And so I still believe in him. But at the same time, I think what Cincinnati got was a solid coach that still has to prove that he's an elite coach. So in that regard, I think you've got a good point, Jared.
But in that case of Cincinnati, you don't want to be the guy who follows the guy. And he's following the guy, is he not? When Luke Fickell? I mean, I think Luke Fickell's a great coach.
Well, Luke Fickell took Cincinnati to about the highest you could possibly get as a group of five. He brought them to the playoff. And they were a legitimate playoff team. Now they're going to the Big 12. So in Satterfield, at least Cincinnati has a coach that has coached in the Power Five. He coached in the ACC. He understands the rigors of recruiting at that level. He understands, you know, what it takes to coach at that level, even though he didn't take Louisville as high as I think a lot of people expected him to. But for Cincinnati, that's one of the things that you kind of wanted, because you need to usher the program into the Big 12, not elevate the program to be competitive in the Big 12. They're already there. You need a guy that can at least keep them where they are and then move on from there. So did they hit it out of the park? That remains to be seen. But I agree with you, Jared, that in his previous stop with the Cardinals, he didn't show that he's a guy like Coach Prime that you can just point to everything great about.
Trevor, last one for you. A wild week for the Titans with John Robinson being fired. Who knows if Vrabel's going to get promoted to GM or whatever it may be. Joe Rexroth wrote a piece, his own column about Mike Vrabel and how Ohio State, if they become unhappy with Ryan Day, should offer the farm for Vrabel. Now, I'll say this. You can't be getting your ass kicked by Michigan every year if you're going to be the coach at Ohio State. And I'm not a Ryan Day guy. Do you foresee a future in which Ohio State is interested in Mike Vrabel? And could the future without Ryan Day be sooner rather than later?
I think Ryan Day is the future of that program. I think he's an outstanding coach. I think they got their doors blown off last year, but this year's loss to Michigan was a completely different animal. Basically, they made 5 big mistakes on defense that are all correctable, and that allowed 5 long touchdowns. Other than that, Ohio State kind of had a beat. And so I thought that, it was a different reason to be mad at the coaching staff than that they got their doors blown off because it was a different way to lose. I like Ryan Day, but if they ever do decide to move on from him, I can't think of anybody besides Mike Vrabel that they would want to go after. And they have enough money to certainly make him any offer he wants, but so does the NFL, so do the Titans if they want to keep him. Then it would just become whether or not Vrabel wants to get back into the college ranks. And keep in mind that there's a lot of similarities in coaching NFL and college, but the differences are vast. And the biggest difference is recruiting. In the NFL, if you need someone, you can go in the free agent market and you can buy them. Up until recently with NIL, you couldn't just go buy them. Now you kind of can. And so there have been NFL coaches that have not succeeded at the college level, even though they were great at the highest level, because they didn't understand the concept of roster development and roster turnover when they didn't have free agency, but now they do. And so if that might be something that would be an obstacle that has been ushered off the table, Mike Vrabel, I think, would end up being a phenomenal coach in Ohio State. I mean, perfect coach in Ohio State. The only question is, does he actually want to do it? But keep in mind that Ohio State has got a coach. His name is Ryan Day, and he's very good.
Trevor Matich, as always, on our program. Trevor, great stuff. Appreciate you. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Jared.
Yep, Trevor Matich joining us on the program. Okay, they talked to The Athletic did, 2 former longtime Titans employees. And what they said about Amy Adams-Strunk's move last week scares me. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You watch the game. We talk the game.
The college football playoff rankings, Tennessee, the #1 team in the country.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Nothing says I love you like the gift of jewelry. A sapphire ring, a diamond necklace, a colored gemstone earring, an anniversary band. And around here, the diamond destination is Genesis Diamonds. With decades of experience, our legendary value combined with worldwide connection, Genesis is here to help make this Christmas the most unforgettable ever. And to make it easy to splurge, our special 0% finance offer has been extended through Christmas Eve. So you can make any holiday purchase and spread your payments over 5 years and enjoy an interest rate of 0% with absolutely nothing down. Our showcases are filled with exquisite diamond rings, earrings, pendants, bracelets, bands, as well as a fabulous selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, starting as low as $35 a month with nothing down. And if you're planning an engagement this holiday season, this special finance offer includes all of our designer engagement rings and all GIA certified diamonds. Buy now, spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest and nothing down. Say I love you louder than ever this holiday with the gift of diamonds from Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills in Cool Springs. On approved credit.
When joint pains cause you to sit out on everyday activities, it's time to make an appointment with Dr. Matthew Beal at Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Dr. Beal can diagnose your problem and treat the joint pain for both surgical and non-surgical matters. Board certified and fellowship trained, Dr. Beal specializes in hip, knee, joint replacement, and adult joint reconstruction. Visit tn.houston.com to learn more about Dr. Beal and to book an appointment online. Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters.
Harman Energy is now hiring drivers for their Nashville team. Harman Energy is Tennessee's petroleum solution for major industry. Right now, they're offering competitive compensation. Fuel tank wagon drivers start at $26 an hour. Fuel transport drivers, $29 an hour. Plus, there's a $4,000 sign-on bonus for CDL drivers. Top quality benefits and a great place to work, Harman Energy employees provide totally outrageous customer service. Come be an employee owner with the Harman team. Apply now at harmanenergy.com.
Vanderbilt fans, your flagship home for the broadcast of football and men's basketball is 93.3 Classic Hits. And for the weekly Commodore Hour featuring head coach Jerry Stackhouse, tune in to 94.9 The Fan on Monday nights at 6 p.m.
Live from the Game Nashville studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A betting performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead. The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury. He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Live from Bridgestone Arena, Preds tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. Pre-game in an hour, puck drop in 2. Connor McDavid in the house. So the Athletic, Mike Sando, talked to a bunch of different people around the scope of the NFL about the Titans' decision last week to fire John Robinson and what it means. They talked to a former general manager, a longtime executive, a current head coach, and 2 former Titans employees. Now, these Titans employees, they could be Jeff Fisher, or they could be somebody selling the popcorn. We don't know. But they spoke on the condition of anonymity to Mike Sando at The Athletic, and here's what they said. Quote, the way that Adam Strunk spoke to Teresa Walker in the on-camera interview reminded 2 former longtime Titans employees of her late father, Bud Adams, who was famous for making decisions impulsively. One of these former employees said the idea that she possibly fired Robinson was in reaction to enduring Philly fans' taunts as A.J. Brown lit up the Tennessee secondary, reminding him of the time Bud Adams flipped off the Buffalo Birds fans from the owner's box in 2009.
Bills.
What'd I say?
Birds.
I
He
said
did
the birds.
flip a
He
bird
flipped the birds
to the
to
Bills fans.
Thank you. Quote, she did that interview from her desk where she reminded me a lot of Bud, where she said, I knew my mind was made up, so why wait? One of the former employees said. Now let me say this. I am forever grateful that Bud Adams decided to bring the Tennessee Titans to Nashville, Tennessee. It changed my life. I am forever grateful that Amy Adams Strunk decided to put Floyd Reese in the Ring of Honor. And so when I see that people say this about Amy or people say this about Bud or whatever it may be, the one thing that I will always say is that without Bud Adams, I don't know how my life would be because I don't think the Titans would be here. But I am worried that what Amy Adams Strunk did last week and what is about to happen to the franchise represents the bad of Bud Adams as an owner in the NFL. And the reasons why Bud Adams is not in the Hall of Fame when his contemporaries like Lamar Hunt and Ralph Wilson from the Bills, they are in the Hall of Fame. Bud should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, don't make no mistake about it. Al Davis, those two, but like they're all part of that generation. But there was a lot of, craziness that happened when Bud Adams owned the team. And so John McClain was on Outkick 360, and they asked him about the idea of did this kind of seem like a Bud Adams move with what happened last week? Here's what John McClain said.
The worst move in Oilers-Titans history came on New Year's Eve of 1980 when the Oilers were coming off an 11-5 season, and they went to Oakland and got beat in a wild card game. And the next day, Bud Adams fired Bum Phillips. That day is still known as the New Year's Eve Massacre. And then the team went into a tailspin that lasted until 1987. People never forgave Bud for that, even when they went to the playoffs 7 years in a row and won playoff games, couldn't get beyond the divisional round because Bum Phillips is the most beloved person in the history of Houston sports. And that's not on the magnitude of this.
So you hear John McClain saying, hey, Bud Adams fired Bum Phillips, and that was one of the worst decisions in the history of Houston sports, and Bum Phillips won 61% of his games. John Robinson won 61% of his games. And so it's easy right now to say, well, Jared, we want to be better than just making the playoffs. But at the same time, I remember what it was like when we wanted to be better than just making the playoffs. And so we fired Floyd Reese. And I remember what happened after that. And I remember watching Mike Reinfeldt football with Jeff Fisher. And I remember Vince Young's pads in the stands. And I remember Matt Hasselbeck under Mike Munchak and losing to the winless Indianapolis Colts to keep you out of the playoffs in 2011. And I remember that 2012 team, which I said was the worst 6-10 team I have ever seen in my life. And I remember wasting the Chris Johnson era. And I remember what it was like when Ken Wisenhunt was running this thing into the ground. Now, I didn't live in the post-Bum Phillips, post-Love You Blue era, and I didn't live through Warren Moon, and I didn't live through the loss at Buffalo, and I didn't live through that crazy 1993 season in which they had a Football Life documentary, and I didn't live through that loss to Kansas City and Joe Montana, and I didn't live through the move from Houston to Memphis to Vanderbilt to Nashville. But there's a lot of stories that all add up here. And I am worried that this is what Amy did is history repeating itself and that they have fired their Bum Phillips. And when two former Titans employees are saying, you know what, that interview she did, I felt like it was time, so I did it. That does worry me that was a Bud Adams decision. And no disrespect to Bud. Because as I said, I think Bud belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I love Bud Adams and everything else. But one of the big feathers in the cap was that Amy Adams Strunk was Bud without the crazy. That for all these years, she cared about the team, loved the team, wanted the team to win, but she didn't do the crazy like Bud did.
Then my question is, where did this come from? Let's operate under those conditions.
Under the Corey Curtis theory that she's had 8 good years as an owner and
one bad week. That could potentially define her legacy. Let's operate under that. Why now? Why has she been able to play a backseat and play a pure owner role of John and Mike are my football guys, and I am just, I'm just here observing. How could she have been in that position for the past 6 years, since John Robinson has been hired as general manager? Mm-hmm. Totally fine letting them do the football operations. And up until last week, decided that there needed to be a change. What happened that she could be such an even keel owner? And now she's not.
What do you think?
If we're operating under these conditions.
What do you think?
A.J. Brown.
So you think that the idea that she told Teresa Walker her mind was made up before the Philadelphia game, more power to AJ for the game he had, you're not buying that?
Well, how could her mind have been made up before the Philadelphia game?
Well, what if they had won the Philly game?
That's what I'm asking.
Would they have fired him still if they had won the Philly game?
That's a question that I asked D. Mace. That's a question that I asked TD. I said, if A.J. Brown had 4 catches for 32 yards, would John Robinson still be the general manager of the Titans? And they both said, yeah, probably.
Here's the thing. Again, I love Bud Adams. Bud Adams never won the Super Bowl. 60 years. Never won the Super Bowl. He got close. I mean, he got as close as you can get to winning the Super Bowl without winning the Super Bowl or I should say at least tying the Super Bowl, because they would have kicked the extra point, the game would have gone to overtime. People treat that 1 yard against the Rams like, it was a 4-point game, and if the ball goes over, then the game's over. That's not true. It was a 7-point game, so they would have had to kick the field goal, the extra point, and then go to overtime and win. But he got as close as you can get to winning a Super Bowl without winning the Super Bowl. And there were some great teams that Bud Adams had. The Oilers back in the Love You Blue era had some teams, that went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the Terry Bradshaw Steelers. And then the Oilers in the late 90s, the early 90s, had some freaking awesome teams. Whether it was Mike Munchak or Bruce Matthews or Warren Moon or Ray Childress or whomever. They had some freaking awesome teams. But the thing is that Bud, it just feels like he just never could get over the hump and into the Super Bowl. And at the end, the Bud Adams thing wasn't working out so much on the football field. And I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to the era of Mike Reinfeldt. I do not want to go back to Tommy Smith running the team. I do not want to go back to Ken Wisenhunt is the coach. Have you ever met the guy? No. I don't want to go back to that. And that's what I'm scared of, is that, if she really is, if we're going to get these Bud Adams moves sometimes, I don't want to go back to losing. That's what I don't want. And that's what I'm worried about, is that they're headed right back to losing. Because I don't see the solution here, right? So you're going to get a general manager that is going to be a great personnel guy and is going to have final say, and Vrabel's going to love working for that guy?
Maybe. I have to think that's her vision.
And that guy's going to love Mike Vrabel as his coach and not want his own coach in there?
Don't you think that was her vision? Don't you think she had to have thought about that before firing John Robinson?
I thought her vision was to have John Robinson and Mike Mularkey lead the football team into the next era. And that didn't last very long either. That's where common sense is coming in. This doesn't make sense.
Nope, I am with you.
Just like John McClain saying the New Year's Eve massacre, the firing of Bum Phillips, didn't make any sense.
And that's what I've been trying to make sense of for the past week, is why now? Why this move? Was it really all that bad? What's your vision? What do you want? What's next?
She's not going to answer that.
No, she's not. But that's what we all have been trying to figure out.
I don't even know. I read this article from the AP, and I'm like, was that asked? Now Teresa Walker did report that she thinks that two separate people have to have the job of GM and coach. Now, she didn't say that the coach has to be above the GM or below the GM, but she said that those are two separate jobs. And she is right about that, which I like. But
she says that. I would agree.
I get nervous that this was a Bud Adams move. And again, Bud Adams changed the lives of a lot of people around here, and I am forever grateful for that decision. But let's not forget that sometimes Bud Adams did some things that were off the rails. And I'm a little worried about this one. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. By the way, to the anti-John Robinson crew, and I don't feel like I'm a pro-John Robinson person. You know what I mean? I like John, and I thought John did a good job, and I didn't think John deserved to be fired. But as everybody points out, we were on his ass all the time. And some of the things that he did were just flat out ridiculous. Showing up to training camp without a right tackle 2 years in a row. Ridiculous. But John McClain has a thought about his future. We'll get to that coming up. 615-737-1025. This Sunday following the game, tune in for the post-game show with Jonathan Hutton and Chad Withrow, live in the Superbook Lounge in Landshark Bar and Grill, Margaritaville on Broadway. The post-game show is brought to you by Renter's Warehouse, Two Rivers Ford, now with a huge inventory of in-stock vehicles to choose from. And Superbook Sports, voted the #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Silly Underdog Picks is back. Get your friends and sign up today at thegamenashville.com. Pick the 3 football underdog teams each week you think will win for a chance to win weekly prizes, like a pair of tickets to a sporting event or to a concert in Nashville. Oh, yeah! Go to thegamenashville.com or the Game Nashville app and sign up and play now. Then tune in every Thursday at noon for our expert picks. Silly Underdogs is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket and Superbook Sports.
Hose and Belting Specialties in Murfreesboro is your local source for hydraulic, air, water, and chemical hoses, along with conveyor, timing, and metric belt needs. They stock metric fittings for both air and hydraulic applications. Hose and Belting Specialties stocks Parker hydraulic hoses and fittings, Goodyear Conti-Tech industrial hoses, and V-belts, just to name a few of their lines. For any of your industrial needs, call 615-895-HOSE. 615-895-HOSE.
Christmas shopping is in full swing at Electronic Express. Come into our convenient locations for great deals on all of your favorite brands like Samsung, Microsoft, LG, Sony, Apple, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. 4K TVs, computers, appliances, smart home, headphones, gaming, and more. Save up to 40% with up to 48 months free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and get free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make Christmas happen.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select Kubota compact tractors, rated #1 in durability and owner experience. They're designed for easy operation and feature performance-matched attachments. Right now, put 0 down and get 0% APR for up to 48 months, plus save up to $1,100. Now through December 31st. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House today.
Hey, it's Hutton. Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Replace your old unit fast before new regulations increase prices up to 20%. Get a new unit today at today's price and receive up to $1,500 off, or get 18 months of no payments, so the first payment is not until spring of 2024. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Schedule your appointment now at springhillac.com. That's springhillac.com.
Response to Genesis Diamond's remarkable free financing offer has been so incredible that we're extending it through Christmas Eve. Last minute shoppers, we've got you covered with 5 years zero interest financing on any purchase with $0 down. So you can splurge on that handcrafted diamond ring and spread it over 60 whole months. Studs, bracelets, necklaces, bands, every color and every shape, starting at only $35 a month with $0 down. You can use this amazing offer on anything. Designer engagement rings, classics like diamond pendants and bracelets. All our hand-selected GIA certified diamonds are included, and so are our luxury pre-owned Rolexes. At Genesis, we've got our best collection ever, with case after case of stunning gifts that are romantic and timeless. And with Genesis guaranteed best value price and 5 years zero interest, $0 down financing offer, you can make this the best Christmas ever and still stay in budget. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $79.99. You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Never miss a moment of the show. What is this? Check it out. Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
And as I've told people that have asked me about Amy firing John, she had her reasons, and I'm guessing if she hadn't told the truth about why she did it, to me, it's something that either he offended her somehow. It just, we'll never know. We'll never know for certain. And Amy's wildly popular there. As you guys know, she's popular here with the Oiler fans who know how well she's treated the Oiler players with their alumni reunions up there and the one she had here. So I think in her tenure, she's allowed one move that people consider bad. The key, of course, what do they do to replace John, and can they be better without John? John won't have a problem getting a job when he's ready to get another job. I don't think it'll be a GM right away unless a spot opens up and he interviews for it. And whenever the time comes that he interviews, I don't see any other general manager out there will have his track record of success. So if you're a personnel director who's never been a GM and you're interviewing in competition with John Robinson, boy, it's going to be lopsided when it comes to credentials.
There you go, John McClain I love how nobody outside of Nashville believes the explanation that Amy Adams Strunk has given us as to why they fired John Robinson and what it means for the future. And
well, what is the explanation, really? She just didn't like the direction of the team?
Well, the explanation is basically ruling out what it could have been, right? Like, she ruled out Vrabel, the power struggle with the, if you think that you do not know Mike Vrabel, that one. It kind of ruled out the plane from Green Bay that Joe Rexrode thinks we're crazy for talking about.
Has she ruled that out, or has Joe Rexrode ruled that out? She hasn't mentioned anything about the plane. At least I have not heard anything from her about the plane.
I'll just say it like this. I feel like I've done enough talking, and the talking that I've done, it seems like misconduct is off the table.
Okay. I don't like that. I don't like that because misconduct is the only real rational scenario that doesn't scare me moving forward. Because it either means a bad and rash decision by Amy Adams Strunk, or it's a power-hungry Mike Vrabel. And both of those are recipes for disaster.
So make of that what you will. And John McClain does not buy what we've been told. He's like, we'll never know the truth, and just moves on.
You're not wrong.
He does not think about it. But he is right. Like Corey Curtis said, Amy Adams Strunk has had 8 good years as owner and 1 bad week. And John McClain says she's entitled to 1 big mistake. And this may be it. Robinson screwed up a bunch of stuff. Don't make any mistake about it that John Robinson, I'm not saying he was perfect or anything like that. I also don't like the fact that they fired him. It was a massive distraction for an entire week. We're still talking about it a week later, and they went and got their asses kicked by the Jags. I don't like that either. So all of that kind of weighs into it. But I'm really worried about the future of the team. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, 615-737-1025. Eddie has been waiting patiently and is up next. What you got, Eddie?
Well, I think she made the right decision because John Robinson has cost the Titans a lot of money. If you look at the money you gave Amanda Hooper, look at the money you gave
2 players.
Harold Landry. Look at the money you've given.
So it's his fault that Harold Landry tore his ACL?
Huh?
It's John Robinson's fault that Harold Landry tore his ACL.
No. But see, the thing about it is, if you look around the NFL, all the players that the Titans have gotten rid of, balling. They're balling. They're not injured. Now, all players going to get hurt. You look at Justin, I forget his name, Justin, over at Detroit. Titans let him go.
You're thinking about Josh Reynolds. And this is what...
Josh Reynolds, yes, sir.
Okay, so even if all that's right? Like, even if Robinson was a screw-up and he had to go and he was terrible, even if that's the case, why would you do it in the middle of the season?
Well, okay. Now, I've been in business a long time. Sometimes you have to cut them loose right then and there. Because, number one, I think she felt very embarrassed because you let a player like AJ get away from you.
See, Eddie, thank you for your call. That's it. If you're doing that, thank you for your call. If you are running the top of your multi-billion-dollar corporation because you got embarrassed that the fans in Philadelphia turned around and taunted you with their middle fingers in the air, then I am scared to death about what else you're going to do running this multi-billion-dollar corporation. You know what I'm saying?
Can't get your feelings hurt.
It's not like, hey, I run, the caller's name was Eddie. I run Eddie's Tire Shop, or I run Eddie's Delicatessen, or I run Eddie's Steakhouse. And if I feel like it's time to get a new hostess in there because the current hostess we have is not greeting people to take them to their tables well enough, it is not the same thing. Not at all. What you just did was you nuked the season to the tune of losing to Jacksonville for the first time at home since 2013, according to the caller, because, I think she was embarrassed about what happened in that Philadelphia game. That doesn't make me feel better about the situation.
But that cannot be the truth. I mean, I have to believe there's at least somebody in the room or in her circle of trust that's saying, hey. These are just some fans. I understand you feel a little embarrassed.
Do you think there's somebody in her circle of trust that feels like they can go up to her and be like, hey, this is a bad idea?
I hope so.
I mean, I can't say there is or isn't.
I don't know the answer, but I hope so. And if there is, and if she does trust that person and that person feels like they have the authority to say, hey, Amy, let's think about this for a second, then did they do that when she decided to fire John Robinson?
I can't think that they did. But I could be wrong.
Unless there's something that we don't know, which I still vehemently believe.
And let me say
there's
this.
something that we do not know.
If there was a campaign that I could run to try to get Bud Adams in the Hall of Fame, because I think Bud Adams belongs. I've talked about Bud Adams in the Hall of Fame on Sirius XM. I mean, I would do it. But I don't want to go back to the Bud Adams days of when this team was losing a lot. And if they find a guy that keeps them from losing and they start winning even more than they're winning now, I will be the first person to sit there and say, boy, I was wrong. I didn't know Ryan Cowden was the next Bill Walsh, but apparently here we are. Shane is up next. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What you got, Shane?
Hey, the difference is, and we're beating a dead horse to death, but the difference is A.J. Brown. He's the difference in the Eagles being a pretty okay team and a contender. And that's the difference in us last year when A.J. Brown was hurt and we were sitting there waiting for him to come back. When he came back, we went from being a pretender like we are right now to being a contender. And we gave John, I put that directly on John Robinson's shoulders. Hey, I would take the 1 or 2 years that we probably could have kept him and been a real contender over anything that we have now, because we're not going to be a Super Bowl contender for a long time now. You don't give away difference-making players and then get to be a Super Bowl champion.
Sure. I mean, I appreciate your call, Shane. I think there's a really short-sighted element of this, too, which is right now you don't give away A.J. Brown and get better today. That doesn't mean that you won't get better tomorrow. The Philadelphia Eagles gave the Titans DeMarco Murray. I mean, they gave them DeMarco Murray. And DeMarco Murray came in here and led the AFC in rushing. And DeMarco Murray was the best player on the Titan team that went 9-7 that first year with Mike Mularkey. That was the worst team in the NFL, and it was in large part thanks to DeMarco Murray. And the Philadelphia Eagles, 2 years after they made that trade, won the Super Bowl. So you can say that you don't get better by trading away game-changing players. That was a culture move for the Eagles. They didn't get anything out of trading DeMarco Murray. They switched 13 spots in the 4th round of the 2016 draft, and yet they won the 2017 Super Bowl. So don't act like, oh, AJ, it's over for forever, because it wasn't that way in Philadelphia. These things happen. It's cyclical. The Titans are 1 or 2 moves away from being right there, too. And maybe John can't make the moves. I'm not disagreeing with that. But they did it in the middle of the season. It's like people forget where they were in time when they made that decision. It's just like they think it's a binary. Did you like the decision? Did you not like the decision? Not what were the ramifications that came from the decision. And honestly, it's frustrating me because I feel like these people just don't want to listen to that. Casey's up next. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Casey?
Hey, Jared and Caroline. Glad to talk to you guys. So my thing with John Robinson being fired, with AJ being lowballed and leaving us to go to, or not leaving us, but being traded to the Eagles, I was wondering if Amy was firing John Robinson as well, because she was worried that he was going to do the same thing to Jeffrey Simmons, lowball him, and then we just end up trading him. And
I don't think people understand the authority of an owner in the NFL. Like, if you didn't want to lowball Jeffrey Simmons, if that's what you thought it was, and I don't think, just off of what I heard, I don't think the Titans lowballed A.J. Brown.
No.
I do think, thank you for your call, Casey, I do think there would have been more negotiating and the Titans were going to have to move. And now I'm hearing some weird crap, not from reputable sources, but from non-reputable people that are going on, whatever Twitter show and wanting to
Jeffrey Simmons
say,
and non.
No, it's not even about Simmons. It's about, that they could have offered A.J. Brown $30 million a year and crazy ass crap.
Gracious.
And so I'm hearing a lot of that. But if you're the owner of the team and you think your general manager is doing a good job, and then you feel like he botched a negotiation, which is going to happen, but if you feel like he's going to botch this negotiation with Simmons, all you have to do is pick up the phone. All you have to do is call the general manager and say, hey, I want you to make sure Simmons is a Titan.
Yeah.
And if you tell the general manager, I want you to make sure Simmons is a Titan.
Whatever it takes.
Simmons will be a Titan.
Yes.
I mean, there's no way. Now, you might not have some other players, but if you say that whatever happens, I want Jeffrey Simmons on this team, then Jeffrey Simmons will be on that team. We see that. You think that Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, thought it was a good idea to give Deshaun Watson $230 million fully guaranteed when he's still facing 24 civil sexual assault allegations? No, of course he didn't. But when Jimmy Haslam said, I want him to be the quarterback here, Andrew Berry, they went right with it.
It's your name on the checks?
They went right with it. Right with it. What do we have in the text line? Because I feel like we've ignored that for a hot second here.
One texter texts in and says, we broke up with Bridget Moynihan. Amy better hope she finds her Giselle GM.
First of all, that was my joke from 5 years ago or however long ago it was.
I don't think this person kept receipts from 2017.
So
Jared.
I said when the Titans fired Mike Mularkey, I said if John Robinson's learned anything in New England, it is that he needs to go find his Giselle Bündchen. Although I love Bridget Moynihan. Like Blue Bloods, But I will say this. I said in 2015, and somebody called in and was like, Jared, I thought that was very offensive for you to say. And I was like, caller, get out of here. On to the next call.
Why is that offensive?
I don't know. She was offended by it.
Was it Bridget Moynihan? Was she offended by that?
Oh, I would never offend Bridget.
I would never accuse you of doing so.
I would never offend Bridget Moynihan. I mean, there are just certain lines you do not cross in life.
And the Bridget Moynihan line is not even one you'll approach.
So I'm actually reading Matthew Perry's book. And
yes.
And
how is it?
I didn't know that he dated Julia Roberts. Clearly, like I was like 6 when that went down. So, what would I care about that? But
pretty iconic power 90s couple though.
I was reading about that. And like how he broke up with Julia Roberts because he couldn't understand why Julia Roberts would want to go out with him.
Seems like a very strange and backwards and probably not completely accurate account of what happened.
Dude, he's just like spilling the tea about his ex-girlfriends in this book. It's pretty wild. Like,
who else has he dated? Anybody exciting?
I haven't gotten
other than Julia Roberts.
I haven't gotten to anybody else who I
Well, give us the juicy stuff next
can
time.
even remember their names, but I don't know. Mike's up next on John Robinson. Quickly, thank you for calling. What's up, Mike?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Go. What's up?
Okay. Well, I believe that a lot of it has to do with when the offensive coordinator went out there and got drunk. I think that's I do agree with the Antonio Brown. I mean the AJ Brown trade and everything and what the other callers are saying, but I really think there's something more in depth with the offensive coordinator. I don't
Mike,
know why.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to call in with this exact same take tomorrow between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. for Joe Rexroad and Robbie. Thank you for your call, Mike. I want you to call in with that same take for Joe Rexroad, and I want you to run that by him.
Hammer it home, Mike.
And see what he says, because every time we bring it up, he talks to us like we're idiots. So even though Mike Lombardi brought it up, you said Bob Shoup brought it up last week, the fact that like a lot of people brought up the plane, apparently I'm Alex Jones, according to Joe, because I brought up the plane. Make of that what you will. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, talk about a story that I didn't even know anything about today until I saw Willie Donick when I walked in here going off. I have some thoughts. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
This is Tanner Janot, and this is Smashville.
And now down the right wing side, Tanner Janot. His shot, he scored! Tanner Janot with a shot!
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter. But it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here, and you can give the gift of Preds hockey this holiday season with the Smashville Stocking Stuffer presented by 47 Brand and Local IQ. This includes 2 hockey tickets, a Preds 47 Brand hat, and a $20 food voucher, all starting at just $79. Visit NashvillePredators.com/stocking for more info, or check out the 5-game pick plan presented by Hattie B's. Pick any 5 games and select your seats, plus receive a Preds car flag and a $10 gift card to Hattie B's. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets for details.
Nothing says I love you like the gift of jewelry. A sapphire ring, a diamond necklace, a colored gemstone earring, an anniversary band. And around here, the diamond destination is Genesis Diamonds. With decades of experience, our legendary value combined with worldwide connection, Genesis is here to help make this Christmas the most unforgettable ever. And to make it easy to splurge, our special 0% finance offer has been extended through Christmas Eve. So you can make any holiday purchase and spread your payments over 5 years and enjoy an interest rate of 0% with absolutely nothing down. Our showcases are filled with exquisite diamond rings, earrings, pendants, bracelets, bands, as well as a fabulous selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, starting as low as $35 a month with nothing down. And if you're planning an engagement this holiday season, this special finance offer includes all of our designer engagement rings and all GIA certified diamonds. Buy now, spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest and nothing down. Say I love you louder than ever this holiday with the gift of diamonds from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills in Cool Springs. Approved credit.
It's electric in Smashville. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 429 has a new path to a dignified career. Local 429 is accepting applications for the highest skilled electricians and linemen and is providing the best training in Middle Tennessee. They are the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 429. Call them at 615-889-4429 or go online to ibew429.org. IBEW Local 429, your proud 7th man since the beginning. Go Preds.
The Nashville Jam Company is already a super popular weekend breakfast and brunch destination. But with summer over, it's time to put the beach body away for a while. So for fall, they've expanded their offerings and added what they call the Meat and 3 menu. Yeah, cool weather and Southern comfort food go hand in hand. And the stars of this show are the hefty meatloaf, Southern fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast, fried chicken, Salisbury steak, and a slew of other rib, stick, and delicacies. And they have salads, too, if you're into that kind of thing. Come see the new menu Monday through Friday from 10:30 till 2.
TSU basketball lives on 102.1 The Ville. Join Coach Brian Petty Collins and the Tigers for every great moment in the OVC. On your home for TSU basketball, 102.1 The Ville and the Ville app.
Hey, this is Pekka Rinne. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
I don't think I'm perfect at all. But what I strive for is to be positive, energetic, enthusiastic for the team that we're covering, but also be honest and tell you when they're struggling. I went on the pregame show yesterday and I pointed out, what is the team struggling? Why are they not scoring? What did I say? They're getting a lot of shot attempts. They're getting a low percentage. They're 31st in the league at getting the shots on net. And what happened in the game? They didn't score. Why? They got a lot of offensive zone time. They got a lot of power play time. They weren't getting enough shots to the net. That's honest. But if you want me to do it in a way that says, these guys stink, they're awful, get them out of the league, trade them, that's never going to happen. No. And no broadcast will do that. Nobody's broadcast do that, including the Bruins.
Boy, Willie was going off today.
I walk into Barrel House and Willie's like out of his seat and his face is red and I'm like, what did I miss?
So I walked in and a caller had called into the midday show and Chase points at the extra headset to me like, hey, come grab this headset and listen in on this. And I was listening in, but I caught the back half of the call and not like the whole call. And so then Willie like launches. I had to take the headset off because Willie was so loud. Apparently, like when we sit down here, like these headphones are at like level 9,000.
I fear for the hearing ability on the midday show, truly.
And so like I had to take it off because Willie was yelling so loud at this caller, which like, no offense, but like, you know, I'm the one who yells at the callers. Willie's game is not yelling at callers. He can do it. He can dial up 99 at the caller if he needs to, but he doesn't do it. He's not yelling at people.
Unless someone strikes a chord.
So during the break, they go to break after that call, and Willie's, talking about how our broadcast, we're going to be energetic and enthusiastic about the team, but we're going to call it like we see it. And I guess the caller must have said that Boston had like a legit broadcast, which is not true.
But you would think that in a city like Boston, they'd be super critical.
Opposite. Jack Edwards is the biggest homer in the league. And so I'm like, as soon as they go to break, I'm like, what the hell happened? And so apparently Lindsey Rowley sent out a tweet last night. I still am not totally sure what happened. So I was watching the Preds game and I was watching Monday Night Football, and I was flipping between the two. So I was, Monday Night Football, then it goes to commercial, flip to the Preds. It goes to intermission, back to football. Football goes to halftime, back to the Preds. Preds goes to overtime. I watch the overtime. As soon as St. Louis scores, I go back to football. That's just what I was doing. So I guess she interviewed one of the coaches on the bench.
Yes.
And some smart ass said something to her on Twitter.
Yes. So the Bally Sports Preds tweeted out a clip of Lindsay interviewing Dan Highnote. And Dan Highnote says, you got to love the way that Cole Smith plays.
Okay.
And there are a bunch of mad Preds fans
Which
in the
let me
replies.
say I don't, because I think he kind of stinks.
So, and that's essentially what fans were saying was, 0% goal scorer Cole Smith, essentially just airing their grievances about Dan Highnote's response, or what he said to Lindsay Rowley.
Sure.
And Lindsay Rowley tweeted, the replies on this interview are honestly cracking me up. The people that you are criticizing have forgotten more about hockey than you will ever know, crying, laughing emoji.
Wow.
Which, she's not wrong.
So
she's not wrong.
So then a lot of people got mad.
A lot of people got mad.
Okay, and now apparently you're telling me that Lindsay Rowley has offered an apology.
She tweeted out an apology and said, I want to apologize to anyone who was offended by my previous tweet. Of course, fans are entitled to their opinions. I honestly do love our fan base. It is part of the reason I love being in Nashville. I didn't mean that you aren't entitled to an opinion. However, I think it's a fair assumption that the people running our team know more about hockey than most. Myself included. Just like fans are passionate about our team, so am I. I have faith that our boys can turn it around. Still a lot of season left.
Okay, all right. First of all, I don't think she needed to apologize.
No,
that's
she
just
said
my number one take.
nothing wrong.
I don't think she needed to apologize. That being said, if you're going to say that the fans don't know what they're talking about, the fans are going to get mad. Now, I yell at callers.
She didn't say that, though.
That is kind of what she said.
But she said.
When she said the coaches have forgotten more than you'll, that's kind of saying, the fans, you guys stay in your lane, which is not wrong.
It's not wrong.
I yell at the callers every day. So who am I to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, don't tell the fans they're wrong? I don't think she needed to apologize. I'm kind of on her side for this. Let me say this. The Preds TV broadcast, in general, I do not agree with a lot of the things that I hear during the broadcast. But I think they're telling you what they think, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to, a lot of optimistic stuff, one, that's a team broadcast. You're going to get that for every team in the league. You're going to get that. Whether it's, Vancouver at the very top tip corner or, the Florida Panthers at the very bottom corner, you're never going to turn on a local TV broadcast and see the broadcaster of the San Antonio Spurs be, well, Bob, I think we suck and Greg Popovich should be fired.
Back to you.
You're never going to see that. And that's just what it is. That being said, I don't totally agree with the Preds TV broadcast, but I don't think they're lying to me. I think that they just view things more optimistically than I do.
Well, it's not a hot take business when you are on a team's broadcast.
And I think that I probably view things a lot more pessimistically than probably anybody.
And the people on the TV broadcast probably hear you and say, I don't agree with a lot of the things that Jared Stillman says.
Oh,
and
when Chris Mason came on the debate and we were screaming at each other like Shannon and Skip Bayless yesterday. With me and Chris Mason yelling at each other. I will say this. If you got mad about what Lindsay Rowley said yesterday, which I didn't even know about until Willie yelled at that caller when I walked in here, and I was like, why is Willie screaming at a caller? If you got mad about that,
grow up.
Seriously,
grow up.
Who? I cannot stress this enough. Who cares? Seriously, who cares?
Are you really that offended by that?
Do you care?
No.
Ian, do you care?
I do not.
I mean, seriously. Like, first of all, I didn't even know this was a thing until Willie, I've been working with Willie now for like 7 years. I have never seen Willie, like, screaming at a caller like that, except for this past spring when they got mad about, what is the Preds rebuilding plan or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And Willie
they told you what the plan was.
Willie was yelling at the callers. There was that. But, I mean, I'm like, what happened? And then you showed me the Lindsey Rally tweet, and I'm like, that's what happened? That's what people are mad about?
It's so overly dramatic.
So I have said this, and I got in trouble for this when I said it at the time, but we have different bosses now, so maybe I won't get in trouble for this.
That's a really great way to approach this.
There is nobody who has, I think, challenged Preds Twitter over the last decade more than me, that has been, like, at war with Preds Twitter. I mean, sometimes they gotta look in the mirror. Sometimes they gotta, have some thicker skin. Like, seriously.
Like, if that's what we really care about,
the most bothered I'm by is I don't think Lindsay should have apologized. Not that I care that she did or didn't. I understand why she did.
She didn't need to.
But I don't, think she needed to apologize. But that was something I was not expecting today. Today I open up the Mike Sando article. Last night Mike Vrabel comes out and says he's not changing the coaching staff. And, of course, Twitter got mad about that. Like, oh, God, how do you not get rid of Todd Downing? And then, all these people that are football people tell Mike Sando at The Athletic that the Titans have lost their freaking minds about what they did with the general manager and trying to hire a new one and Vrabel and everything else. And the Predators lose in overtime last night. Now they got Connor McDavid coming in here today. And no, people are mad about what Lindsey Rally said on Twitter. And it wasn't even really that big of a deal.
What a world we live in.
Oh, my goodness. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Predators game days next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman & Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus. Our forecast today starting off cold with temperatures in the 30s, but the afternoon pushing toward the upper 50s. A light sprinkles possible, but heavier rain moves in overnight tonight and lasts on and off throughout your Wednesday.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Need cash for the holidays or to pay off credit cards right now? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. This is great. You can keep your low mortgage rate and still get cash out. That's right. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low rate. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan will come your way, and it only costs you around $300 a month. Use that money to pay off whatever bills you have. Credit cards, consolidate other debt, or start a home improvement project. With Loan Pronto, you can access up to 95% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need the appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Do it now before the holidays. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
This holiday season, tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest gifts from Titleist and Bushnell. Elevate your performance with Titleist TSR drivers designed to maximize distance. While you're there, grab a dozen Pro V1 or Pro V1X golf balls. And from Bushnell, save up to $75 on the Tour V5 and Tour V5 Shift rangefinders. We also have gift cards for those favorite golfers on your list. Don't miss these holiday gifts and more happening now at Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and every season is screwball season in my house. No matter the time of year, that rich, smooth taste just hits the spot. Y'all know Screwball. It's made with real whiskey, peanuts, and peanut butter, and it's just flat out delicious. It's my favorite. However you take it, as a shot, in an espresso martini, or a peanut butter old-fashioned, make it a Screwball peanut butter whiskey. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2022 Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Diego, California. Whiskey with natural flavors, 35% alcohol by volume.
Informative.
They played a lot of power play time together back in the day.
Insightful.
It's a great addition to this team.
And just three guys being dudes.
On the sideline in shorts and a t-shirt.
Hanging out, watching the game.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
No such thing as bad press.
On Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. It's Hockey Night in Smashville.
Deflects back for Duchesne. His shot stopped. And the score!
What are the keys to victory tonight? What's being said in the locker room? Where do the Preds reside in the Central Division standings? Jared Stillman has the latest now. With Preds Game Day on Stillman and Company. This is Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Predators Game Day is presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Buying or selling or even thinking about buying or selling, talk to TJ Anderson. He's my realtor. TJ has sold 2 homes to me and done even more for my friends, and I have no hesitation in referring them to him and his wonderful staff. If you are looking to sell your property free and clear, ask TJ how he's having success marketing those properties. TJ Anderson Homes.com, part of Benchmark Realty. Again, that's TJ Anderson Homes.com. Predators tonight at home against the Edmonton Oilers. Puck drops 7 o'clock. The Predators come into this one 12, 11, and 3, including dropping last night to the St. Louis Blues in overtime. And the Edmonton Oilers are 16, 13, and 0, good for 32 points. And we start with the coach's take. John Hines, Ellie Tolvanen gone to Seattle. What
there was
went
lots of times where I thought there were times, in his tenure here where on the power play he looked really good, and then other times it wasn't there. There's the shot mentality, and then the decision making to be able to use his shot was there at times, but it wasn't there consistently enough. I thought there were times in his tenure where he played, top 6 roles for long periods of times, and other times he played in the bottom 6. And for him, it was just really trying to find a way to be able to use his assets. And he's I thought there were times in his tenure here where he took pretty good advantage, and we really liked what we saw. But then there were other times where things just weren't good enough.
I really struggle with the whole narrative thing that's been coming out with each individual little piece about the Predators over the last couple of years, only because John Hines was supposed to be the guy to work with the young guys, and none of the young guys are really getting any better. But then it's on an individual basis. It's Ellie Tolvanen could never be consistent here, so it didn't work out. I'm like, when you draft a guy in the first round and you hype him up that he's going to sign out of the Olympics and come right in here and be on a top 6 forward, and then he's not, and then you're the coach who's supposed to get the best out of the young guys. And 2 years ago, he absolutely carried this team and took them from where they were at the bottom into the playoff chase. At some point, it's on the coach to start developing these young guys like Fabro, Tomasino, Tolvanen, the guys that you use premium assets on, or else you're just the Titans and you can't draft in the first round. I mean, it's one or the other. The other thing that's got to change around here is they got to start winning. Because right now, the Predators have 27 points. Now, it's not the end of the world because, shockingly, the defending champion Avs are only 3 points ahead of the Predators. But they're tied with the Blues, and they're dangerously close to Arizona. And now you've got Connor McDavid coming tonight. And that's my final thought is at some point it's got to turn around here. And if it doesn't turn around in a big way soon, they may not be able to dig themselves out of anything other than just trying to challenge for that last playoff spot. And I just thought we were promised a little bit more.
I'd like a little bit more.
I just thought we were promised a little bit more.
I think we were.
So tonight, Max Hers got the pregame show. That's next. Stillman and Company. We'll see you all tomorrow at 2.